If anybody gives me a hard time for uploading and or singing this, then I don't want to sing with you. And if you think I'm ignorant, maybe because we have different beliefs, well, that's on you. Maybe you haven't looked into it, maybe you have, but hey, we don't have to agree on everything. Let's do this. Something's going wrong in the neighborhood. Why do we see further than we should? All around us, people unaware, lied to and deceived without a care. There simply is no curve inside. You know we don't spend all day and night. It seems they want our minds flooded with lies. If you wanna bust the globe, I know these guys. Who you gonna call? Who you gonna call? Who you gonna call? Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters! Ghostbusters! Who you gonna call when the horizon flattens out? Go ahead, call them up, see what that's about. We can go around in circles trying to find this out, but if we looking for the truth, about to find it out. NASA can't go to space, so we hit the roof. Get it, hit the roof, and it all came to light with 200 proofs. Whoa, now I'm just really sick of people lying to me. So when I tell the truth, don't come crying to me. Pick up the phone, get on the line with me. Line with me. Who you gonna call? Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters! Ghostbusters! I can't help myself. Globebusters. Yeah. That's right. Oh, man.
Yeah, and welcome everybody to Globebusters, serving up humble pie. I'm your host, Bob Xanadude60, and we are back with another great show for you today. We're finally going to do that long lost EQ mount debunk. And when actually we've done a show on this before, but I kept saying that I was going to do it on Wednesday night, and then I kept having things come up on Wednesday night, and we are still going to be doing shows on Wednesday night, but I figured that I was going to go ahead and do this today as part of today's show. So we do have that to look forward to today. It's going to be great. And then I think on Wednesday night, we're going to be doing some other stuff with Zach Zabala and oh God, who's the other guy? LC King. Oh my God, I'm having a brain cramp. Yes, LC King. So we're going to be looking at some electrical earth stuff there. And yeah, pretty fantastic stuff. So, all right. So other than that, let's go ahead and introduce the panel. First up, as always, we have Jeran from Jeranism. How you doing today, Jeran?
Doing great, Bob. So it's all right. Anything you forget, I'll remember, and then vice versa.
I know, man. That's why I got you as my teammate here. Every time I space out from, being old, you fill in the blanks.
We don't have many years left of me not being old as well, so take advantage of it now.
Yeah, no doubt. What are you? You're what, 40 or 42?
41.
41. Okay. All right. Well, I had it halfway right.
But I feel 25, so whatever that means.
Oh, well, that's a good thing. All right. And I apologize, Lucas, if you're out there, for me being a space cadet, but that's the way it goes sometimes. So, all right. Let's move on. So, Iro isn't here yet. He's going to be here. He's being fashionably late. He's being Iro as typical. But other than that, we do have the doctor as being in the house is Rodrigo Ferrari Nunez. How you doing today, Rodrigo?
How's it going, Bob, Jeran, and Morgal? It's good. It's good. Just keeping up with stuff and trying to stream like every night a little bit and talk about stuff and continue going through information and trying to communicate stuff. And it's been interesting. And yeah, thank you for having me, man. It's great.
Awesome. Cool. All right, let's move along to Wits It Gets It. Austin, how you doing, man?
Hey, how's it going?
Doing all right. How's you still in Florida?
Yeah, we're actually leaving Pensacola, headed to Tallahassee. So I'm trying to keep the background noise to minimum as possible. But yeah, we're headed towards the Tallahassee area right now.
Okay, that sounds good. And yeah, we're going to be updating everybody with where you can find Austin and his tour that he is doing. And hopefully you can give us a little bit of update on that. But because of the fact that they've got your channel completely bogged down with strikes and, you know, I'm unable to stream and et cetera, Austin's going to be streaming on the Globebusters Activism channel and the Globebusters 2 channel. And I will put those in the show links for everybody so that they can go ahead and subscribe to them and be able to follow them around that way. Because, boy, I'll tell you, YouTube doesn't make it easy, do they?
Nah, man, nah. And I was wondering, like, why don't they mess with me more? You know, they're messing with all my friends, and then they just drop the hammer on me, bro. Like, you're not coming back, bro. Just sit down.
I know. Same thing with me, you know, because they haven't, you know, well, they've done a couple of really small blocks, but you know, we haven't had a 3-month one in quite some time, but at least not since I took off all the videos. But you know, they'll sit there and screw with me. Even when I took off all of the other old videos and anything that wasn't ours that we mirrored, they still come back and said, oh, well, you can't monetize because you're using everybody else's material. I'm like, what? This is all our stuff, you know, but they're just being complete.
Wow, that's crazy, man. I don't know, man.
You know what I think they do? This is my theory anyway. I think that they wait. They wait until they can get 2 or 3 strikes on you, because if they get you with 3 all at once or within the same, you know, 90-day period or whatever, then they can totally shut your channel down. And so that, because they just hit me with the community guideline strike for a video that I put out over a year ago. And so I don't know, man. That's just my theory, though. I think they want us gone.
Yeah, it's crazy. So Jeran and my boy Bob, like y'all took the videos down. And I feel you, because y'all have such a big platform y'all have built. I got 5,000 subs, bro. They can kick rocks. I'm not taking anything down. I'm not censoring anything that I have on there. So if they want to dig through my old streams like little growlers they are and take me down, then cool, whatever. I'll keep it pushing.
Yeah,
yep, I hear you. But yeah, there it is, the Globebusters Activism channel. It used to be known as Globebusters D Live, and I just changed the name. And oh, hey, there's Eru. Let's go ahead and bring him back in. So there he is. Hey, Eru, how you doing, man?
Hello, guys. Sorry for my delay. I'm still trying to organize my schedule. So thank you for having me on. I don't even see the start of the show, so I'm trying to know what you're talking about. So I'm gonna keep silence.
Okay, well, we just barely started the show and we're going through introductions, and yeah, we did go through daylight savings times. We sprung forward last night here in the United States, so I didn't know if that affected you down there or not. When did you go on daylight savings, or do you go on daylight savings down there?
Yes, of course, because we live all under the Gregorian calendar and Jesuit times, you know, Father Saturn and that kind of thing. So we adapt our clocks to, yes.
Okay, just checking. Because, I mean, believe it or not, there are some states that do not abide by daylight savings time. I know Arizona is one of them.
Yeah, and Hawaii.
There's a few others. Yeah, Hawaii doesn't do it either. So,
didn't they just now in Clown World, I got news or word of the fact they're talking about, like, in Clown World, in Congress or whatever, getting rid of that? And they have like reasons why. They're talking about people, it'll avoid seasonal depression, and it'll have more daylight at the end, so it'll result in less wrecks. Like, they're actually talking about getting rid of daylight savings time.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good idea. And honestly, you know, the reason they put it in the first place is supposedly, you know, when they fall back in the wintertime, what was it? It was just so that the school kids would have more daylight? No, that doesn't make any sense.
Saving energy is the
saving energy
excuse they have in Brazil. It's all bullshit. So get you disconnected with the actual sky and the patterns in the sky. Obviously, gets you back into the system, waking up.
Well, I have to say, I mean, the sky is just cyclical and resets. We don't gotta. If something's drastically wrong, if you got to do all kinds of adjustments as you go constantly.
Yeah, that proves their calendar is a total joke.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I hate it. I hate going, you know, backwards and forwards, and, you know, and I think a lot of that, again, is just to add even more confusion to the world timeline. so that, the date lines and the timelines are all over the place. Just another element of confusion. And, it's very, very much intentional.
Agreed.
Yep. All right, cool. All right. And Morgal has already said hi, but hey, John, how you doing, man? Good to have you back with us again this week.
Hello there. How about it, man? Y'all hanging in there? It's a little rainy here where I'm at, but and forgive me in advance if my Wi-Fi kind of craps out here and there. It's been shoddy, but so just apologies in advance.
Okay, yeah, no problem. You're sounding solid as a rock right now, so no worries.
Nice.
Yep, 100%. So very cool. All right. Let's see. So yeah, that's right. You're in Kansas, so it's a little bit rainy there. And I guess, we keep an eye on Colorado quite a bit still. And Cami's always looking at the weather, and I guess they're going through a major snowstorm there. And what was funny is, earlier in the week, I don't know if it was a typo or what the deal was, or if they were just trying to freak everybody out, but they literally were forecasting for 8 feet of snow in Colorado.
Oh my God. 8 feet? That's
8
a
feet.
whole lot. Did you guys hear a few weeks ago it snowed in, I want to say, Malibu? Like, I don't know, like a month ago. It got down to like -12 here for a week straight. It was that same week. Not even a month ago. Yeah, supposedly it snowed in Malibu.
You saw the report by Leonard, or what's his name, Nimoy, right? From the 70s. The Ice Age is coming. So it's a new...
I thought it was global warming.
Yeah.
Oh, no. It used to be Ice Age in the 70s.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, if you watch the Time magazines, Owen Benjamin did a hilarious bit on that. He showed you all the Time magazine covers. They just fearmonger with the most made-up, crazy stories over the course of the last couple decades, and they flip-flop. It's so funny.
Well, now they just go with climate change, so, it depends on how they're feeling that day. They can go either way.
Yeah, touche. Well, good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so ridiculous. I mean, they can't make up their mind, literally. It's so ridiculous. Because it all comes back to fear mongering, and honestly, I even wonder about, we're supposedly going into this new stage of the sun called the Maunder Minimum, which of course brings about the ice ages. And if you guys have seen the Space Busters series on ice ages, there's some pretty dire stuff that is predicted in that, and it may be true, for all I know, but we can't trust anything in history, so it's really hard to say one way or the other. And
I was looking at the NASA's map for global warming in history, and it shows that they were measuring the temperatures in Antarctica and the North Pole in the 1880s, and all over the place, and in the Himalayas, right? Their map is like that. It presents things for people as if those data were available at the time, and then it progresses into a map for the 2020s where everything is just red. It's like, oh man, it's so hilarious. Like when you look at how they present the data, but people, I guess they're hypnotized when they see NASA linked to the data. Boom, that's all you need. Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
But NASA would never lie, never.
No, never.
Wait, isn't climate change like painfully redundant because that's what climate means?
No, it is pretty insane, man.
Yes, well, that comes out of the Department of Redundancy Department. So,
Oh yeah.
No, climate means 72 degrees every day, nothing changing.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. That's what we need to do, man. That's what we need to strive for together.
Yeah, I'm a little rusty on my Jesuit teachings.
I want the winter and the summer to be exactly the same, or else we need to add more taxes.
Just move to Hawaii.
I don't know if you in the United States it's the same thing, but here in Argentina, for example, the advertising in the back of the cigarette box, now it's saying smoke affect the climate.
Oh,
Or destroy the climate. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Because they used to put things like smoke kill it, going to kill you or produce cancer or things like that. But now the poor climate change, the poor earth is suffering because you smoke, but we produce and we fabricate the smoke. I
think one of the main
it's
things.
your fault because you smoke.
I think one of the main things that may change the climate, it was when they intentionally manipulate the weather with massive amounts of frequencies and manipulations of moisture in the air. That's all declassified by the government. I think the climate might be changing a little bit because of them, maybe, not our cigarettes.
Oh, you mean those like barges that make vapor in the middle of the ocean, things like that? No, that doesn't do anything, man. Massive amount of vapor. No. They can
they try to engineer and guide the weather systems. It's wild that no one cares.
They generated some floods in Australia and New Zealand that catastrophic with some of this shite that they have. It's crazy.
Yeah. And so the guy who came up with that, gets on his private jet as he scolds us for smoking cigarettes because we're affecting climate change pretty severely with those old
so we need to get rid of plastic straws. We need to get paper straws and then wrap them in plastic.
Yeah, exactly. Indeed. It's so ridiculous, some of the climate change that they're coming out with. Of course, we know that they're doing weather manipulation. And in fact, when we first started doing Globebusters around 2015, they were talking, the big thing out then was the Air Force was going to own the weather by 2020. And of course, 2020 is now come and gone. And I think it's pretty obvious that, the weather manipulation that has been going on. Well, if you ever watch that YouTube channel, Weather Wars, have you ever seen that? It is unbelievable. They sit there and they track the radars, and it seems like they have these stations that are around the power stations that put out all of this moisture into the air.
Amazing amount of moisture, like the cubic meters, billions of cubic.
Billions, and then they cause pressure waves. With microwave frequencies, and they actually are able to steer those fronts around and then get them to dump on, wherever, or not dump and cause drought conditions. And it's crazy.
Wow, imagine like the potential for sparking some type of cataclysmic event, dare I say, by really manipulating like the frequencies on the Earth. Right, like within the ether. If you were to just input a ton of frequencies and manipulate like this overall frequency the Earth has, like there's no telling what would happen. And these people are so dumb, they would do something like that.
Oh yeah, that's what they've been working towards for sure.
Sometimes I think we give them too much credit. I was researching recently. You know how much it costs for them to like mint a nickel?
Oh yeah, like way more than a nickel.
It costs 8 cents for every nickel they produce. Yeah, really.
It's not the only one. There's like a couple of them.
Yeah. So this is the same people we're dealing with. So I don't know. Sometimes I think we give them too much credit.
No, I agree with that. That's why I was hesitant to use the word cataclysm. But because the Earth is so incredibly powerful, it's obviously much bigger than they said it was. It isn't finite in a ball in a vacuum. It's super powerful and self-sustainable, and they can only attempt to do things in this small, localized region that they allow us to live in that we experience. But I'm just saying, I wouldn't put it past like viability. Right, is that you could manipulate frequencies, and that could result in all kinds of things, like including like the Earth itself, like shaking and stuff. Right. So, what's an earthquake in actuality, anyway?
Yeah, and they've been connected to HARP as well, right? Some earthquakes, I guess the Chile one is known for happening right after a spike in HARP frequencies.
Well, and of course, all of these technologies, though, I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but it all goes right back to Tesla. This is stuff that he came up with back, or maybe he rediscovered, depends on, who you ask. But that was back in like the 1920s that he was coming up with this stuff.
Yeah, this might sound kind of woo-woo, but say that the Earth has this electromagnetic field just like we do. That's what our heart is. It doesn't pump blood, and it's like a magnet. And you have this electromagnetic field on the Earth. And if you were to, I know this is going to sound woo-woo, but say that the Earth's heart, if you will, is aching at times, and we see like residuals of that.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, totally.
Because the Earth's alive, bro.
It must be.
Yeah. Well, I agree. It has nature's all over it, and it certainly would exhibit that. But, you could also go back and argue that if we are indeed in a created realm, and, whoever the creator is, whether it's God or aliens or whatever, that means that it's also engineered. So
Absolutely.
You can kind of look at it from two ways, and, it gets a little confusing. But, they do have something that's called the Schumann resonance, the Schumann frequency, which is somewhere around 7, 8, or 9 hertz. It seems to jump all over the place, and they refer to that as the Earth's heartbeat. And it's amazing, the amount of technologies that they found that seem to be commensurate with the Schumann resonance. And when I say that, I mean things like bumblebees, when they fly, they actually generate a resonant motion that is resonant with the Schumann wave, and that is how they are actually able to levitate and not. Levitate. Yeah, it makes them levitate because their wings are just too tiny to actually handle the aerodynamics for them to fly around. So there's actually something else going on with that,
That's so crazy.
Some of those real big fat bumblebees too, man. Like they really don't have them here. I haven't seen them here in Kansas, but I know on the East Coast they're all over the place. And yeah, it makes a lot of sense because those big old dumpy things, man. There's no way those wings are like creating enough lift. So yeah.
Yeah, I know. And boy, when I moved out here to the Carolinas, you're right, John. You got some of the bumblebees. They sound like small helicopters. I mean, my God, they're huge. Absolutely huge.
Yeah, they really are.
Or is it females or is it male? The males are bigger usually, and they're black sometimes, and they make more noise.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I didn't check them.
There's some big ones.
It just makes so much sense that, like, think about it, like the way that tree limbs look compared to the roots, compared to your brain, compared to your lungs. Like, to think that there was no, outside, from an outside perspective, that there would be no correlation with us and the creation that we live on, I actually think is actually counterintuitive. And so maybe the earth breathes, causes tides. Maybe the earth, like, sends out certain electrical impulses based on what we're doing and emitting around it, and then it causes other things like earthquakes or whatever. I don't know. I just think that we've been kind of completely lied to about what it is, and some speculate that it looks like a giant eye, right? And we still can't explain the eyes. So I don't know. I think there's something here. I just don't. It's just a little bit too speculative for some people. They're just like, I gotta go. I can't do this.
Yep. There was like another guy too, by the name of Viktor Grebennikov. There were two Victors, Viktor Grebennikov and another Victor, which I can't remember. Spacebusters covered him, but basically his whole theory, the two Victors were basically saying, if you mimic what nature does, then it's amazing the technologies that can come out of it. And they really tried to, kind of put poo-poo Grebennikov. Schomburger's the other. That's right. That's the other one. And they really try and poo-poo on these guys and tell them, tell people that they're quacks and all this stuff, when in fact that they are so commensurate with nature, and the way that nature handles things, it's absolutely unbelievable. So and I'm sure Tesla was right there.
One thing that's amazing as well, talking about bees, is how when they need to find new flowers to forage, and they need to move an entire hive. They send scouts that go off in the environment to try to find the new flowers, and then they come back to the hive and they give instructions by doing this dance. And they come in the hive and they do this dance around, and apparently that gives them instructions for the whole hive to move together in the right direction.
Whoa!
And that people try to understand how that works, and
Don't they also use some kind of pheromones for communication as well, like the olfactory, like sense of smell type communication as well? Or is that just ants? Maybe I'm got my wires crossed.
Think about how we use smell, right? We're not even very sensitive compared to dogs and other animals and vultures and so on, or hyenas even. But
yeah, the thing with pheromones is the frequencies, bro. Because the bees, they don't fly; they're not even aerodynamic. They use resonance, and so when you freak out and you're paranoid, you're emitting certain frequencies, and those what they call pheromones, they interpret as an attack, and then they attack you.
Yeah. It could just be electromagnetic resonance rather than just pheromones, and that the chemicals, these pheromone chemicals, they're used by materialists to try to explain things like sexual choice. Even it's very bizarre. It's a kind of eugenics approach, the idea of pheromones, but I think you're onto something when you're talking about resonance and something else going on. But it's just pheromones is one of those theories that comes from the apparatus, like the transhuman eugenics kind of stuff. So
yeah, I agree 100%. They just say that from this materialistic paradigm, but actually it's just the electromagnetic energy, and you can't see that with the naked eye. So it is what it is.
And we know for sure that at least that's the claim, that what the bees are seeing, the frequencies that they see are way beyond what we could see, obviously that makes a lot of sense for the kind of creatures that they are.
Absolutely,
Who knows what
absolutely.
else?
So this slight little anxious frequency you put out, bro, like it affects them drastically because they're very sensitive to the frequencies. That's how they can go through crosswinds like over 50, 60 miles an hour unaffected because of the sensitivity to the resonance, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like they've got a little shield up around them, like that guy that built the little flyer device out of beetle wings, which may or may not be true. I look at that and I tend to believe that it was probably true. And of course, like everything else, it was crapped on, and made to people want to think that it's quackery and stuff. But I think a lot of that stuff is absolutely real. So who knows?
Anecdotally, when I was a young kid, I was at my grandparents' house for the weekend one week, and there was a nest of yellow jackets that was like that. They'd made a nest in like the screen door, the back door, and my grandfather had told me, don't go out the back door because of the bee's nest. And of course, I forgot, and I went out the back door, and they didn't attack me until the instant I realized, and I saw it, and I like didn't do anything, but I like freaked out. I had that like flight or fight response, and that instant they just stung the crap out of me all over my hand. And but yeah, it wasn't until that instant where I like freaked out, that's when they attacked me. So yeah, there's something to it, anecdotally at least, for sure.
Yeah, they made a good point in the chat too. That's why you see so many dead bees around the 5G towers emitting all of those EMFs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And was it Einstein that said something about when the bees die off, then humanity's right behind it.
Right.
And if that is a result of 5G, then yikes. Who knows?
You saw the birds falling from the sky as well.
Yeah, that happens. The birds die, and sea life washes up on the beach, and it's just incredible. All the wildlife that's just dying in droves.
So, yeah, but 5G is much, much faster. So, hell with the grandkids.
Oh, yeah.
That's true. We can download in just like 2 seconds flat. So as long as we can get our movies in 2 seconds flat, that's all that matters.
The Internet of Things, man. Everything's going to be connected to everything else. Imagine the possibilities.
Yeah, Starlinks and 5G, dude. It's just a surveillance system of like a futuristic movie that they're building.
I really need my refrigerator connected to the internet, or else
Yeah.
things are going bad for me.
Yeah, dude, if I don't get 1 gigabyte per second, I don't care if it makes the whole entire Earth go extinct, bro. Like, I need faster frames per second.
Well, and like even if you do have your fridge hooked up to the internet, I'm sorry, I'm still going to smell my milk before I go pouring it on my Lucky Charms.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, it's crazy. And anyway, so yeah, and nature obviously, depends very much on these type of resonant frequencies, vibrational frequencies. We've talked several times about spider ballooning, right? And how they basically extend a thread of silk, and then they charge it with a specific charge, and it allows them to navigate up and down in the atmosphere. And a lot of people still think, well, that's just the wind blowing them around. But what they found was within windless conditions, they were still able to go up and down just by changing the charge potential, which of course again tells us that whatever this so-called gravitational force is, or this bias, is electric in nature. And that's something that we keep talking about over and over and over again. And that's just one of those things in nature, I think, that is a good proof towards that way of thinking.
Yeah, if you apply density alone to the bees, your whole argument falls apart, bro, because they're not even aerodynamic.
That's right. Yeah.
That's exactly
Something
right.
else must be going on. And the humming kind of has something to do with it. That's what we hear from what they're doing. That it's almost like they have an engine on.
Exactly.
Yep. Yeah. Grebennikov was all over that. And that's something I think we'll be talking about this Wednesday. So hopefully, Austin, you'll get a chance to, be there on the Wednesday, because we're going to be talking about this downward, acceleration. So I guess I can kind of make a little gateway into that. I don't know how many people are familiar with one of our mods in chat. Her name is Rachie 00000. And I kind of discovered Rachie, a while back, several months ago, and I was kind of impressed with, watching her and her very, very open investigation into flat Earth. She started out kind of a ball earther, and then as she did her investigation and posted, what she found, she really has done an honest investigation, and I think she's somebody that's really amazing because she is, she's really looking into this honestly. I wish everybody would do this, but where she's at right now is she is kind of going over this argument that's being put forth by Sleeping Warrior and others about the relative density disequilibrium being all that is required for to explain the so-called gravitational effect. And it's interesting to watch her because right now she's engaging with a guy, and his channel is called I Can Science That. And he's just a small channel, but I really like this guy because, he's a baller, the whole 9 yards, but it is amazing at how open-minded he is and how he really is trying to understand where she's come from and, kind of take it apart and go through it with her. So I really like it.
It's like some kind of new scenes is interesting because like a new scenes emerge after all the drama and all the shit that happened in the past, where you have honest people just asking questions again. And they're going at each other, but they're not being as aggressive, which is great to see.
Yeah, I think that the Holocaust psyop backfired on them a little bit. When I go out and talk to people in the world, they are so much more open-minded when you talk about big deception because they're like, "Well, yeah, look at the world right now." Seriously, it's a double-edged sword for them. I think.
Yeah, that's a big one as well. Last months, right? A lot of people turning around and figuring out things because of the whole scamdemic.
Yep. So anyway, as I was saying, these guys they're kind of going back and forth. You've got him, responding to her, and then her responding to him, and it's kind of an ongoing thing, and it's really fascinating. I'll put all this stuff in the show links, and I have to admit that I've even opened up a little bit more to the relative density disequilibrium argument, even though I still don't buy it. As far as being the only force out there that is causing this. And I don't think this guy is either. And I'm beginning to wonder if Rachie is kind of backing away from that at this point, but time will tell.
Is it not fair to say that it's part of it, but it's not the whole thing?
Well, it's absolutely part of it. And, we've never denied that. Relative density disequilibrium is absolutely a reality. However, it is not, as Austin and I have talked about it, it is not that quote unquote downward bias that is there in all things, or he calls it the Z-axis or X-axis. I don't forgot what axis he calls it, but there's specific variables in mathematics that cover this. But when you follow this discussion, and I really would recommend that everybody follow this discussion between Rachie and I Can Science That, because it's really amazing. You will learn something, and it's so refreshing to not see a bunch of egos and hair go up on the back of people's necks, like, "Oh, you're attacking me, you damn shield." I mean, it's an honest and open investigation.
So tiring, yeah.
Oh God, I know. It's really refreshing. It is. And, I'm certainly open to it. And, if it gets to the point where Rachie brings me around to where she's at right now, which, like I said, right now, she's kind of buying into the relative density disequilibrium, and that's fine, because at least she is, she can say, yeah, this is what I believe right now. But if other people believe differently, then I'm not going to attack them as being shills and, call them out as agents like some people do, right?
The first thing they would do, apparently, if they disagree with anybody, it seems to be, that's one of the things that annoys me. When I get comments like this talking about people that are my friends or that I talk to, some of you guys or whatever, I just basically don't respond. Why would I, what do I have to do with somebody disagrees with something Bob says or Austin says, when I can talk straight with Austin about things and have great disagreements and agreements? That's what I love.
Well, I thought ad hominem was one of the key steps in the scientific method. Isn't it?
Yeah, it seems like it. It really does.
Well, like, my main focus is personally, right? Like, and it should be all of our focus, in my opinion, is to sharpen the arguments. Well, I love to say, and I do say, and will always say, so how can you even claim gravity if you can't isolate it? Because, well, how could you isolate gravity if you can't account for the variable of electrostatics, the intrinsic electrostatic resonance of the matter? If it's much stronger, then you are going to have to control that variable to isolate the supposed gravity. That is such a decapitating argument. Why would we dismiss that as a community?
It's
Exactly.
a typical science. Some fields of science are kind of isolated from one another, and they would ignore a whole swath of phenomena because it doesn't fit their terminology, and they don't know how to make it.
Yeah, that's true. That's one of the. They did a good job, bro. If we're going to be honest with the deception, because they bogged down our interpretations with these messed up definitions so much that it's hard to even have a conversation where people understand it. Now, like talking about magnetism, for example, right? Like it just, bro, you can't. You have to teach everyone misdefined terms to start the conversation. So they really like layered the deception where it's hard to even get to the conversation. It's pretty impressive.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, then people get in their bias, and it's sad. It really is that people can't approach this with more of an open mind. But so this discussion that's going on between Rachie and I Can Science That is going to be one of the highlights that we are going to be covering on Wednesday night, which is going to be, I believe, at about 6 p.m. Eastern time. So it's going to be a little bit later than usual, but and if you guys actually have something that you want to contribute into that, we'll be taking calls on it, because it is something that I think that, the community has a lot to say about. And believe me, I am fully aware of both sides of the argument, because, I take big time crap from the people that don't, that don't believe in, the way that I do, or the stuff that we've been putting forward. And then there are a lot of others, which I think honestly is more, that are looking, at it the way that I am. And that doesn't mean that makes me right, because more people are agreeing with me. It's just kind of the way it is, from what I've observed. But I think this is something that really deserves an open forum. And if people, and this is something I'm going to be trying, here in the future, Globebusters, is, trying discussions like this and see if we can actually, have these talks without it going into complete, ad homs. And, I can tell you right now, there will be certain people that, the same old people, and they know who they are, and we all know who they are. They will never be allowed into this discussion. I'm sorry, but they've made a name for themselves, and they have nothing new to bring to the argument. And, that's just the way it's going to be. But if you're a flat earther and you're looking at this and you're honestly, inquiring into it, then I'm interested. I think we all are interested in what everybody has to say, because, I think everybody's got a piece of the puzzle. And I think it's going to be something that, if we can open up these discussions, this will be a really good thing for all of us. So
Absolutely.
Excellent. So, all right. So I will put these Rachie and I Can Science That links in the show links, and we will go from there. So let me now go to, oops, sorry. I'm going to go ahead and run an ad really quick for the solar return celebration. Austin, are you going to be able to come to that? I think you said something about you were going to come to that.
Yes, we are. Both Chris and I are going to take the RV all the way up there and go to the festival, get there on the 26th or so.
Awesome. Okay. Beautiful. So, and if you guys are not aware, we got ODD to make an appearance. He's going to actually do a live performance there, which I think is going to be completely awesome. We haven't seen him perform since the Denver conference, when we were all at the bar downtown in Denver. And man, that was a lot of fun, wasn't it, Jeran? You were there.
Me too.
Oh, that's right.
That was awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
We also had a Flat Earth Man, so
yep,
we were rocking out.
Yeah, we were completely rocking out at that point.
All right, if I can get a ride out there and back, I might make it as well, but it's up in the air right now because
where you stay?
I'm in Kansas.
Yeah,
that's
you're gonna come meet us somewhere closer. You can ride with us.
Well,
we're just
I'm like right in the middle of the country, and I'm in it's like the lowest corner of the ninth pit of hell. So it's in Kansas.
And
did I put that in my GPS?
Pancake, right?
What's that?
Kansas, flat as a pancake. It was
right.
an article, I remember.
Yeah, dude, Florida is flat as a pancake too, by the way.
Yeah, Florida is actually flatter than Kansas, believe it or not.
I believe that. I believe it, dude. It's super flat everywhere.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're just driving through the entire state of Florida, and it's just always flat. It's insane.
So I think on average it's like 30 feet above sea level or something like that.
Yeah, it's really, really low.
Yeah.
And then we were at, of course, New Orleans. You got areas that are below sea level.
Yeah, real good engineering.
Yeah, and what's funny is you would think that just over the peninsula of Florida itself, I don't know exactly how wide that peninsula is that's sticking down into the ocean there, but I would imagine that it would have to have at least several thousand feet of curvature as far as a hump that would be there. But,
yeah, dude, that's another thing. So P900 with an infrared, one of the followers, Anthony, awesome, has been like, hey, bro, like offered to let us use it. So we're going to get a P900 infrared and a P900 without the infrared. And so we're going to hit some long distance observations with that infrared before we get out of the state, because I think crippling the globe would be pretty feasible, even with the humidity.
Yeah, crippling it even more, you mean?
Yeah, of course.
No doubt. Okay, guys. So, the Solar Return celebration is going to be coming to Greenville, South Carolina, March 26th and 27th. Same place as we had Flattoverfest last year. The governor of South Carolina has pretty much relinquished the mask mandate. So we do not have to have any masks there, and nor are there any restrictions as far as building capacity. And of course, I doubt we're going to get anywhere near the building capacity, but we did get over 400 people last year, which was really amazing. So hopefully we can get a little bit better than that here towards the end of this month. But let's go ahead and run Karen B's newest promo video on this and see what she has to say. Here we go.
I don't know about y'all, but it's been a long year, and I'm ready for the solar return. March 26th and 27th, 2021 in Greenville, South Carolina. Come and charge your electromagnetic field. Live performances by One Big Love and our very own Christian Knapp. Learn about biofilled sound therapy. Arts and crafts, print your own t-shirt. Art with Watson Atkinson. Jason Lindgren performing live. Chief Crow and the Flat Earth Worms live. Media Bear, meet and greet. How the World Works with Cami Nodell and Zach Zabala. Learn something cool. The Great Baldini Jam Sesh, that's right. And ODD performing live. It's gonna be lit. Herd Klotz Park, Friday, March 26th, and the Greenville Shrine Event Center, March 27th. 2 days of music, art, fellowship. Children free with a paid adult. Flat Earth Festivals to get your tickets, y'all.
All right, beautiful. Okay, so there you have it. Can you guys still hear me right now? Everybody good? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. I've been having a little bit of problem with this headset. It's got one of those boom microphones that if you pop it up, it turns the microphone off, and you pop it down, it turns it on. And sometimes it doesn't turn the microphone back on. And there was one time that I was talking kind of behind the scenes, and it didn't turn the microphone off. Fortunately, Jeran was Johnny on the spot and muted me before I said something really embarrassing. Remember that day, Jeran?
I
Absolutely.
remember too.
That was quick, man. I mean, if you watch that in replay, I mean, you've never seen somebody mute somebody else so quickly.
I don't know, dude. I've been in some really toxic Discord servers, dude.
I think we should all have a emergency mute Bob button.
Yeah, no doubt. So yeah, I just am really careful, what I'm doing when I mute. But yeah, when you can't depend 100% on your mute button, then just got to be careful. That's all. So anyway, all right, let me stop this and reshare. And let's see, share screen. I think I wish that they would come up with a way that you could do multiple screen shares on Streamlabs. Did you say something, Ira?
No, yeah. It was a joke because you mentioned screen sharing. Multiple screen share. It's like an orgasm of screen sharing.
Yeah, no doubt. So that would be really cool. All right. So Let's see. Next thing I wanted to cover really quick is, I don't know if you guys saw this on Facebook or not, but nope, this is this one. But this is kind of funny. Of course, everybody knows about the new rover that's up there. And, you know, as always, the internet hive mind, like Mark Sargent talks about it, you know, they're going to catch stuff. Like we caught the little ground squirrel or whatever on one of the rovers. Well, this time somebody caught a fly on the new rover that went up there. So I'm going to play this. This is pretty damn funny here. So take a look at this, guys. So he's going to zoom in on it. And lo and behold, this is a good pick that they caught this. There's a fly on the new rover.
Wow. A big one.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
Wait, do you know where is it? What's the original image?
Yeah,
Is
do
it
we have an original file for that?
It's
Or?
proof of alien life on Mars.
I do, and I will put that in the show links.
Okay, thanks.
So yeah, because you know, if it could be fake. I don't know, but you know, that's for people. But you know, it stands to reason to me that things like this, obviously, I think they're real because NASA simply cannot get everything. Yeah, they just can't. And so when you think about that, there's going to be a lot of little slip ups and stuff. And of course, when that happens, they'll send out their troll army saying, oh, that's crazy. That was completely faked or made up or whatever, or that was here on a test run on Earth, you know, whatever they're going to say. But
it makes me wonder if they do it on purpose, man, because like, I don't know. That just seems like a pretty big slip up. But if they were to do something like that on purpose, it's basically, you know, to thumb their noses at us saying like, look how big of asses we can make ourselves and people still believe us over you.
Exactly.
I don't know, maybe.
I think they're doing that all the time throughout the. I mean, look at the ISS stuff. It's a total joke with the hair that we looked at last week. Remember the spiked hair and them saying that is the proof that why they're in space, and they laugh at you, and people still like, yeah. It's like you know it's real because it looks so fake. It's the same kind of deal.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
yeah, exactly.
Insane.
Now, another thing that was completely ridiculous is the SpaceX 10-kilometer Starship SN10 test launch, which happened just last week, I believe, or maybe 2 weeks ago. Actually, it was 2 weeks ago. And, you know, it's interesting because you have guys like this that have a 4K footage of it. I'm going to go just start playing this so you can see it. But it's only you're supposed to go up to 10K, which is, you know, all fine and dandy. And so it's interesting because you watch this and it's got the usual cartoon smoke and all this stuff, and the flame not appearing to affect any of the smoke right there. It should be blowing it all over the place. It doesn't seem to be affecting it at all there. It looks like a cartoon. I mean, I don't even know how anybody could look at that and think that it's real at all. But then of course you've got, you know, birds flying over the top, right? That shouldn't be there. Did you see that going across up here on the right side here? Here they're going to come across here. There you go. You got birds flying across there, and they flew that entire distance over without it even, you know, catching up to them. And look at that. That's absolutely impossible, right? And these things are supposed to be hauling ass as they go up. Now, granted,
it looks like he's stopping in midair, like from the
Dude, when we watched it live, it was so slow that it was baffling, bro. Literally, it was like something's wrong. This thing's not even moving.
Was this the one you watched live? Austin?
I don't know if we watched this one specifically. I don't know. I never watched their feed, but all you see is a really bright light. It looks like a balloon. It moves like a balloon, and it's like, this is so boring. I want my money back. I mean, it was free, you know. So all you see from the distance, as close as they let you get, is like a really bright light that barely moves up, and then they show you this on a separate feed that you can't verify, and it moved so slow. I seriously thought Ashton Kutcher was going to jump out. Like, you are being punked, bro. This is dumb.
Exactly. And look at this. This thing is supposedly in a free fall right now. Now, this is when I say to David Weiss, dude, you got this 100% correct in saying this is a balloon, because that is falling way too slow.
Yeah. One of my friends made the calculation that it took. Also, it was supposed to fall. There's one of the SpaceX ones that lands within 2 minutes after being at 30,000 feet, and that's not even possible with the free fall. Yeah,
I was going to say, it looks like it's falling slower than it was ascending.
Dude, it looked like it goes in the parabolic trajectory at such a low altitude, and it takes like 5 days to get that high. It's seriously hilarious, bro. It's like if you go watch it and you're like, this is going thousands of miles in the air. Like, you're literally so brainwashed that you are screwed, bro. I think that's the point. They have to make it that stupid. That every single person there was like a space fanboy and didn't even know what they thought that thing was supposedly doing. They didn't even put it together, and it just barely moves off the ground. Looks just like a balloon. It's insane. A really, really bright balloon.
Yeah, and that's kind of the point. I mean, this is just outrageous that anybody could buy this.
No, and the point of watching it, right? People watching this is like, wow, it's like a balloon falling.
Yeah, they're laughing so hard on the scenes with their cognac. You know, like, look at these stupid losers, right? What are they? Like, it looks not even exciting. You know, what is that?
And now it's gonna turn around and. Oh man.
Right. So, the question, guys, is this:
Why are people falling for this
Fire
bullshit?
comes out.
Well,
Look at the
well,
fire.
yeah. I mean, that's definitely one of the big questions, Jeran, no doubt.
Look at this. I mean, it's so funny. This thing blows up later, right? Every time it's tried to land it, it crashes. Yet they just pretend that we can just go to Mars and use a sky crane with ropes that drop a remote control car and then take off. Like, all that's easy. But the stuff here on Earth,
Yeah, the stuff that we can see, it gets real tricky. Yeah,
a little tough. Getting to the moon was easy. First try, drop the thing right there. They play around, get back in, take off into orbit. That's all easy. But the stuff on Earth, Elon Musk launching a tin can 5 miles up in the air and having it land again with no people inside, very difficult.
Tricky process.
Well,
yeah.
you know what they say. It's hard to be NASA until you get to Mars. And then it's super easy.
Right.
Boom, look at that.
now quickly.
Like, what if that would have happened to the LEM? What if the LEM landed on the moon? Everybody's watching live from their house, and that's what happens to us.
All right, can we please get a slow-mo of us walking towards the camera in slow motion while that explodes behind us?
Oh, I'll do it. Yeah, I got a green screen. Let's go. Let's do it.
Let's do it, bro. Let's do it.
All right. Okay, so obviously we're all in agreement that the physics of this, nothing makes any sense. So the question is then what is it that we're seeing? Right? If this is all fake, have they come up with a way to project holograms to this level where crowds of people can actually see them? Or is it actually just a balloon, like David Weiss asserts? And Jeran and I came up with that assertion a long time ago, because really that's the only thing that makes any sense to me, is that that's actually what's going on with that.
Well, for one, they do have a history of balloon rockets, which are balloons with propellers under them that exploded. And there's more evidence. There's like there are things that look like they're inflatable and stuff. There's all kinds of stuff. But yeah, I was surprised to see that there were these older rockets on balloons that they had from the 40s and 50s or something that they were trying.
Yeah, exactly. Now, this is an amateur shot. This is probably in the seats wherever you were, Austin. And look at this, how slow this is going up. And again, like I said, they're going to say, well, it was only 10 kilometers. They weren't going to haul ass up there. But this just looks so cartoonish. It is simply beyond belief.
Yeah, and to specify, when I say I don't know if it's the one we watched, I don't know if it's the same type of launch, but it looks like it because it's so slow. But we watched it at night, right? So it was just like really dark. The closest you could get was 7 miles. We actually got harassed by like cops on behalf of NASA and everything, bro. It's such a clown world. And normally you can get 2 miles, but because of the air going to kill you now, they close that down. The closest you can get is like 7. And at night, all you see is a really bright light that goes that slow up in the air. So it looks like the same thing. If this was launching Starlinks, then it's the same thing. And then just a group of zombies, brain dead zombies, watch a light move up like a balloon, and they're like, oh my gosh, Elon Musk going to save the world.
Yeah. No, this is just supposedly a 10-kilometer test ride, but
yeah,
still,
so totally different.
Oh my God, it looks so pathetically fake. And they always got to have all these, birds flying around and stuff. And then you watch it again, and when it comes down, that's the part that it's like, there is no freaking way this thing is in a free fall. Because it literally looks like it's falling as slow, if not slower, than it was going up.
So that height right there at the peak is supposed to be 10 miles? No.
10 kilometers.
Which is what, like 5 miles?
About 7.5 miles, something like that, I think.
So that's right there supposed to be higher than any plane, or most planes.
Yeah, supposedly.
Yeah, just under
reality.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Now watch when it when it comes back down, that's the part that just blows me. So right now it looks like it's just hovering there, because you can actually make out some of these clouds, and it certainly doesn't look like it's ascending. And can you imagine, what kind of, to be able to balance it like that? And I'm not saying that this can't be done, guys, so ballers, before you get on your horse and call me a retard and all this stuff. Look, if this is the best that they've been able to do after 60 years of doing this stuff, then, hey, kudos to them, right? But they could have at least worked on the downside, the downfall, a little bit more, because that's the part that's ridiculous.
Yeah, but cat's out of the bag anyway. The whole entire charade is ridiculous, and that's why I know they write these scripts while they laugh behind the scenes drinking cognac, because 3-4 decades before we took the Nazis over here in Operation Paperclip and put them in charge of space exploration, and then it gave us rocket propulsion technology, quote unquote, and blessed us with their genius. They had already had aircraft that was way more efficient than propulsion decades before the supposed first moon mission. So this is just egregious how much they're trolling us at this point.
With these guys, I'm pretty sure it's not cognac. It's probably wild turkey.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, okay. It looks like the Globebusters D-Live went down. The Jeranism is still up, but the Globebusters D-Live went down. Wonder what happened.
I thought they were decentralized and love free speech.
Oh God, I don't know what's going on. But Jeran's is up, but mine isn't.
They brought back the lemons, surprisingly.
I see. I heard you say it, and that you emailed them and stuff. So they did it for everybody.
I think. I don't know. You have to email them and ask. But after I sent so many emails that were so ridiculously angry that I almost was doing it to get purposely kicked off the platform. and instead they gave me my lemons back. It's kind of funny. I was laughing at the people. Why would they do that? But
that's kind of like when you stand your ground and you won't wear a mask, and then all of a sudden you get VIP treatment and you get checked out first.
Nice. Where's that happening? I got to go to that place.
Yeah, well,
dude, it happens all the time. Dude, happened to me at TJ Maxx, dude. TJ Maxx, they came to me in the line, and I've been waiting for 10 minutes. Like, sir, you got to wear a mask. It's like, no, I don't. I've been here for 30 minutes, and I'm standing in line for 10. I'm not leaving, and I'm not wearing a mask either. And they just took me to the front, took us over here by ourselves, separated by the door, checked us out super fast. Like, thank you.
Well, the thing I don't understand is, as long as they've got their mask on, what difference does it make if I wear a mask? I mean, okay, so granted, it's supposed to help prevent the spread, assuming I have something, but they've got their mask on, so they should be fine even if I am spreading, disease or whatever.
Well, that's why they had to lie and say that it doesn't prevent you from getting sick, it prevents you from getting other people sick, so they could justify trying to make everyone wear it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, really? Is that what they did? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, they flipped. I mean, they've said it all. They've said the antithetical to that also. It's literally just an IQ test. I want to get merch says that it's just masks are an IQ test.
Yeah.
This balloon, it looks like they distribute the weight on the balloon in such a way that first it goes up, standing up, and then it comes down.
It's just floating. Yeah, it's floating. It's not even moving forward, so it could actually take out some of that, and put it into forward motion. This thing is coming down nowhere near 120 miles an hour. I mean, look at that. It's literally just hanging there.
Useful for? What is
going to Mars? We're going to go to Mars and we're going to live there.
Do you by chance know what kind of camera was used to film this? You said this is amateur, right?
Yes, that is.
It's definitely amateur. And that's the other thing is, it looks almost like a cell phone camera because the zoom on it is really primitive, but it's going so unbelievably slow.
Yeah, the aspect ratio of the...
Yep, it's going
okay, so we need to... Dude, this is Titusville area. Titusville, Florida area, Cape Canaveral area, Kennedy Space Center area. Because we could shoot over there before we shoot up to the solar return if they have a daytime launch, right? Because it's obviously much more visible. And if we have that P900, we could actually run the infrared simultaneously with the P900, and we could zoom in on this thing, right? Because this iPhone's if whatever this is catching this. Well, what's the P900 going to see?
Yeah, exactly. You're breaking up a little bit, Austin. You just did.
Oh, my bad.
Yep. No problem. But yeah, I mean that was ridiculous how slow that came down. And then of course once the smoke clears, everybody goes crazy, like, wow, that's the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. And like I said, if they've got technology to the point where they can do this, great, more power to them. I just don't understand why it looks so damn fake, and why would it fall so slowly? I mean, there's no way that was falling at 120 miles an hour, which would be roughly terminal velocity within the atmosphere. not even close to it. It looked like it was falling more around 25, 30 miles an hour. Just really, really slow.
Yeah, at least you need to wait to see the wind tunnels test to see if that type of aerodynamic thing with the things at the side is really can make so slow for the Starship going down. But I don't know if that is available.
I'm wondering if Iru's opinion of this. Iru, do you think that mostly this is real, and that
yes. For me it's real because it's completely absurd. I mean, it's like you mentioned before. We went to the moon supposedly without problems, and when you see this, what I see is super old technology. We are still burning things to go up. Right. When we can, use maybe another type of energy sources, more efficient, but they are stuck like in the 30s. From Wernher von Braun to our days is no different. It's like the car. We still burn fuel to move a car. But for me it's completely absurd. I mean, this is when I see a Harrier, lift in vertical way, it's more technology than this. This is just
I think sometimes when we see rockets that they launch out to the water, right? So then I think that it kind of programs your mind how to expect these launches to look. And then something like this, let's just say that it's real, and this is the kind of extent of our technology right now, which is, hey, we can take this big can, we can put some directional Falcon engines on it, and we can launch it up in the sky and kind of control it and kind of bring it back down and kind of put it back where we want. Then it looks very fake to us because we're used to seeing things, even though we now know they're fake. But when you think of all the launches and the shuttle and things like that, you're like, well, this thing should be able to do much more than what it's doing. This is obviously fake. But I can see where somebody would say possibly this is real because it's not doing anything.
Yeah, but this can only happen. What it's doing can only happen on a flat Earth. That's the funny part. So what is this thing busting east while it's going up and levitating? Or no, it's not. Yeah. So this is stupid.
The only thing I would say on their end of the argument is there's really no frame of reference. You can't really tell how far away that thing is. Sure, you've got some clouds in the background that you can kind of use to gauge as a frame of reference, but it's really hard to say. I mean, really, when's the last time you've seen anything free falling from, I don't know, 20,000 feet or whatever?
But you can know how far they say it is.
Look, their parachute is falling. Like a person falling in a parachute with the parachute on would be falling faster than this. And compare this to the sounding rockets, right? And how they go up.
Right, totally different.
Yeah, but the sounding rocket weighs, like
nothing.
5% of this. The size is really small, 6 meters.
Yeah, but even a ballistic missile, right?
It's a ballistic. Yes, it's a ballistic.
Missile, yeah. But even a ballistic missile, if you don't want to look at a sounding rocket because it's much smaller, but one of the larger ballistic missiles, they go faster than this, way faster than this.
Would this not have to compensate for drag?
From the atmosphere?
Yeah, because the Earth's spinning, bro. Like, why is this thing able to just go up there that slow? It doesn't even make sense.
Well, they say always it's carrying it along, and no matter how high you go, I guess it just carries along.
Okay.
It's a gravity cord, kind of gravity.
Of course.
So there isn't an independent frame of reference above the Earth from the Earth.
Well, it depends. If it's convenient for their argument, then yes. Right. And if it's not convenient for their argument, then no. Get your facts straight.
I'm sorry, I need to brush up on my Jesuit training.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then it blew up. So, there's that. So I don't know what to think of it. I really don't.
It could be just filled with helium too. I mean, we don't know what the outside of that thing's made of. Maybe it's just a really thin kind of metal and filled with helium, and then you might be able to control something like that with some engines and some firings.
With the Earth being stationary and flat.
Of course, yes. Very much so. And again, they can't...
Funny.
Go ahead.
It's funny, like when we're watching it live, as soon as it went on this parabolic trajectory, so it's a little different than this one, like really low looking, right? And then they'll say that the frame of reference in addition to blah, 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 blah. And as soon as it went out, I was like, yay, I started clapping, yay, and please take $60 million a day from us. and I was just asking people, like, what do you think that this thing is doing? Like, have you even thought about it yet, bro? Like, what is this doing, bro? Like, they have no idea. They just see a bright light, and they're like a bug. And they're just like, oh, this is awesome. It's wild, bro. It's literally, you get to watch brainwash
Well, and it's like they turned it into a pop culture thing back in the 60s. I mean, look at Star Trek and Star Wars and all of the glamorization and, you know, just the whole pop culture thing with space. They made it so that people really were emotionally attached to the whole idea of space travel. And so when you have that emotional attachment, they can pretty much get away with anything.
This is why I accidentally interrupted you, Jeran, because you mentioned the helium. When I was there live and we were just ripping space away from them live as it went in the air, I was like, you guys might not know this, but NASA's the #1 purchaser of helium in the world. In fact, they buy 90% of the world's helium supply. This looks like a balloon. You see how slow that is? People are like, leave, get out of here.
How dare you? Don't do that. Austin,
Well, I would say
the origins of helium.
The origins?
Okay. Yeah, I dare you
How they
to
make
spend
it?
some time looking into how helium was invented or was discovered,
It's made.
and you're
Oh,
going to
yeah,
find
definitely
another
pseudoscience.
nonsense bullshit story. Like some guy looked through his telescope at the sun and saw some weird colors and said, "Oh, I discovered a new." And again, it's called helium for
What?
Helios. Oh man, fall that.
Yeah,
rabbit hole.
they claimed that they did spectroscopy to find it, right? Like so, they
Right.
looked out in the
They
sky.
make it out
Yeah.
of rocks. They
they looked
make
out
it out
towards
of
the sun.
rocks. Isn't that how they make it, Jeran? Like,
Well, they say it's a byproduct of some heavily radioactive materials. I forgot what it is, argon and one other thing, which is hilarious because if you look up both those things, they're supposedly very, very toxic. Yet, didn't we all just suck in helium balloons like they're nothing as a kid?
oh yeah.
But it's a byproduct of radioactive material. Yeah, and they say they saw it in the sky next to the sun. Then a guy made an announcement, "Hey, there's a new element I found," and then they started looking at volcanoes and noticed it was coming from the rocks. So they harnessed that. Again, go look into it. You'll
And
All
it
right,
seems
well,
like the more you look into like these old school scientific discoveries, like like speed of light's one of them, and just all across the board, you find so much just blatant pseudoscience. But as far as NASA being the #1 purchaser of helium, I strongly suspect that what we believe to be satellites are actually arrays of high altitude weather balloons serving the same purpose as satellites. And it makes a lot of sense that NASA would need to keep just all like tons of helium on deck to support those high altitude weather balloon arrays.
I mean, if you ever saw anyone punt anything in football, like currently the way I'm looking at the periodic table, I'm dropping out of my hand to punt that thing, dude. It's trash, bro. Just a bunch of pseudoscience, dude. 2 little balls got together with another ball and made water. Like, what a cool story, bro.
and the eyeball.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole thing is such garbage. I mean, you try and talk to these people about evolution or anything, and they get lost because there's no way to describe it, and they'll tell you, "Oh, you don't understand. It happened over billions of years." Like, no. Time out. Didn't the dinosaurs get extinct 65 million years ago? So basically, there's no mammal left. And the biggest animal would be like a little squirrel or badger. So that means in 65 million years, squirrels evolved into human beings who do what we do today. I mean, that's insanity to think that that's how time frames work. So
it's actual insanity. I actually think they have to put out actual insanity so that they think that they don't get the reciprocation for tricking you, because you have to trick yourself to be that dumb.
Right. Exactly. Because otherwise they just get to stand there and just repeat something, and they get to call you dumb if you don't believe them. That's their whole method.
Yeah,
That's
they
it.
have the way they've done it over the years to instill the whole scientific apparatus of this notion of evolution is through many branches of mathematics, like inscribed even in biology, in economics. Like evolution has this like huge sway onto thinking in the 20th century.
Right. You're not allowed to really teach anything else, and if you even believe something else, you better keep your mouth shut.
Well, and see, that's the thing. I mean, they can claim that they warned us, and it gives them or it removes their culpability or whatever their thought processes is. But if you're tricking children into putting this stuff in textbooks and forcing people to believe it, or they fail school, they really, I would say that they don't have any sort of plausible deniability. They're on the hook for deceiving people through textbooks. I mean,
you're absolutely correct, bro. You're absolutely correct. This is because they do not account for the metaphysical law, right? They adhere to natural law. And it's a real thing. Like certain vibrations cause certain things and certain reciprocations. Energy must reciprocate. It's the only way it could exist, in my opinion. So they know that. They adhere to the natural law. You can go back to like Hermetic principle. Everything's a vibration. Everything's connected and has a reciprocation. right? And they know that, but they don't care for the metaphysical. And I know some people might not agree with this, but I think it's...
Whoops, we lost you. Earth Austin.
I think he dropped his phone.
He left.
Did he drop out?
They're true. None of these little ones... I think I'm losing service. No, I just think I'm losing service right now. I'm just saying is the scriptures say that if you're going to lead one of these astray, these little ones astray, it's better you have a millstone tied around your neck and be thrown to the depths of the sea. So they have a metaphysical balance that they're not accounting for that they will definitely regret.
Yeah. Karma is a real thing, and you don't want to be on her bad side because she is a bit of a witch. On her bad side, of course.
Yep. Anyway, crazy. All right. Well, I don't know what to think about this exactly, but I still have a big problem with that speed that it came down, and that's what makes me wonder if this isn't completely fake, or if it's actually a helium balloon. So I don't know. Could be right, Iru. It's hard to say. All right. So
did you see, Bob, that they are supposedly installing high definition cameras into the ISS now? Today, that was the spacewalk from today.
Oh wow! I wonder if they can find it in their budget.
Yeah, well, they've had high definition cameras in supposedly from before, but
they're like 1.5 or 2 megapixels. Pretty good.
Well, now they're going for 4K, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, we remember
they had the IMAX.
That was the funniest thing we ever did, where we all hung out because it was supposed to be the first 4K live video from space. Remember that? And they did the whole show and never even showed outside or anything. It was just those two jackasses. Right. It was so funny. I was in the bath. What's going on? Oh, why you were right there?
It was me.
Oh, sorry, Bob. If you click that link right there, that YouTube link, it's funny that I saw this video recently, and this is kind of shit that just bothers me because I see 2021. What did it say? Caught on tape 2021, NASA in possession of real UFO flying saucer.
These are awesome.
Yeah, it's like what? And anyway, it goes on to show that
planting it, right? Don't you think they're planting this shit in there?
Yeah, and it even gives some date. I forgot what date it says. It says something like June 5th. This flying saucer is gonna, I think I saw it on Reddit too. And there's all kinds of people jumping in and saying, "Oh, I can't wait for this. This is gonna be awesome. I can't believe what we're discussing." And then I saw this. See where it says Friday, June 26th, launch of SpaceX CRS-7. Like CRS-7, that was a long time ago. So I look it up. This video is from like 2015. So somebody has taken this bullshit, right? NASA, it's just all PR. It's so stupid. They never did this. They never flew this saucer. Nobody cares. But somebody found it, reinvented it for 2021. But they're going to fly it June 5th, and people are just so excited. And then I had to jump in the comment section, and I'd be like, assholes, this is from 2015. This is why NASA is a PR agency. Because they can put out bullshit like this, and all you little boys get so excited. Like this already happened 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and was nothing. And will always be nothing. But you can put out things like this, and people get so excited. And oh my goodness, look what's coming! And June 5th, they're going to fly a saucer, and NASA's doing so much, and they don't do it right. Look at that. I mean, what CGI do you need to that?
That's pathetic.
The low density supersonic decelerator. Oh man, it's going to be live aired on June 5th and on NASA TV. Think of how the world's going to change, and it changed literally zero.
Yep. Pretty pathetic. Well, thank you, NASA.
It's hard to be NASA. I'm telling you. Hard to be NASA.
All right. Okay. So let's, I guess, move on to the next item here. Kind of our title sequence here, the serving up humble pie. And this goes directly to the claim that Red's Rhetoric has made. And of course, he put this out to all the ballers, and this is, I guess, mirrored by Fight the Flat Earth. I don't know if Red's Rhetoric was actually originally put this out or what, but he's the one that talks about it, narrates it, whatever. But this is the one that I could find. So it is titled, How the EQ Mount Destroys the Flat Earth. Well,
really? I thought it was the other way around.
It is the other way around. That's definitely part of the problem. And let me actually make this so I can put some audio on it. Hang on just a sec. Chrome tab.
And it makes you wonder, if Flat Earth was so stupid and we're so wrong, why is it that people like Red's Rhetoric have a full-time job of trying to prove us wrong? If it's just such a stupid thing that can be so easily debunked.
Mm-hmm.
He's been at it for years.
Yeah, all of them have. I mean, the trolls, they're all the same trolls, all the same thing, same story. You know, they still come in and they're in all the chats. It's like, really, if we are that stupid, why are you here? You know,
Yeah.
it just, you know, and they're thinking, well, we're saving the world from your stupid, you know, your stupid stuff and ripping everybody off. It's like, yeah, we're cleaning it up here, man. We're making a fortune off this. Not.
Well,
Yeah,
they are
really.
making money off, like, look at Simon Dan. How many people he has on his Patreon for basically total lies and BS?
Oh, I know.
You know.
They make thousands and thousands of dollars, man. I
Showered
wish I
with
got his money.
Oh, I really, really hate that guy. And I don't say that a lot about people, especially in this debate, but man, that guy gets under my skin really, really bad.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and play this, and we're going to let Reds have his claim. I think I'm going to speed it up a little bit we don't have to endure it too long, maybe 1 1/4. And we're going to let them, you know, talk about their side of it and why they think that what they're doing proves that the EQ mount destroys flat Earth, and also proves the value for R, the radius of the Earth. Now, this was classic, guys, because again, what they typically do is they talk about how they're going to prove R using what? R as an assumption in the math that they use. But
math is reality.
Exactly. So let's go ahead and give this a play really quick. Here we go.
While this image is indeed beautiful, it points to something else that is also beautiful: the fact that the image could be captured at all. Notice how the telescope only had to rotate one axis to capture the image. This is because Astronomy Live was using an equatorial telescope mount. It works by aligning the rotational axis of the mount parallel to the axis of our planet, meaning the axis of rotation on the mount is aligned with the celestial pole in the sky. This mount works so well that it's used by astrophotographers. The reason is because it corrects for field rotation, which is a huge benefit because field rotation will ruin any long exposure shot. And while the concept of such a mount is simple, it still delivers a fatal blow to the flat Earth conspiracy. Not only can this telescope mount confirm the shape of the Earth, it can also determine the size of the Earth. And we will demonstrate that in this video. So when a flat earther asks, how have you determined the value for R? You can simply point them to this video. First, let's imagine we're going on a road trip. This road trip will...
Well, I can imagine Nathan's going to have fun with this thing.
The tone of it so condescending, even to
No, it's impossible to support, man. The tone of the voice is impossible to support.
That's right. But he's saying, come to this video. This is the answer to everything. This is it. It's like, it's so cultish as well. Very, kind of, why would you even watch this? Not us, but I guess we're doing for science. Do it for science.
Yeah, this is for science. Yeah, sorry, guys. Hate to put you through this, but they really think they got a winner here. But let's keep going.
Have the following stops: Walhalla, North Dakota; Mitchell, South Dakota.
Blah, blah, blah.
Following the most direct path. Once at each location, we will stay.
So basically what's happening is they're going to take measurements from these places that go basically down a straight line. And they talk about how they're going to do this, and then they act like they've already done it and gotten the results. And the other thing that's really confusing about this is he says, and we're going to take our car mileage and, you know, use the math to prove the R value, right? Which is really bizarre, because when you use the car mileage, it's actually off from by about 200 miles from the actual mileage if you use Google Earth from here to here, right? Which only tells me...
to use a car because you're going through streets and you're turning...
Exactly. So what are they trying to hide? Well, their big claim is that it's within 8% of the predicted values. It's like, well, I don't think so. Not if you use the Google Earth values, but you know, whatever. So let's continue on.
Stay for a night and get some measurements from our equatorial telescope mount. While setting up the EQ telescope at each location, you document the angle of the rotational axis, ensuring the scope is level when making your measurements. Again, we want to document the angle the EQ axis has to be at in order to be aligned with the north celestial pole. After a few days of driving to each location to make your measurements, you document the total distance driven. Now we are ready to look at the data. Here are the EQ angles that you found for each location. Walhalla, North Dakota, 48.9 degrees. Mitchell, South Dakota, 43.7 degrees. Hutchinson data tell us? Well, to find out, we will need to plot our data points on two different models, the first being the flat Earth model and the second being the globe Earth model. First, we will start with the flat Earth model. We will need to make sure that the model is made to scale, so refer back to your notes and the distance driven between each stop. After plotting our points on the flat Earth model, we will now add the angles we recorded during our trip. And here's what they look like. As you can see, we have a problem. The lines of altitude, when plotted on a flat Earth, render contradictory answers for the direction of the celestial pole. In fact, every single intersection can be a possible location for the pole star Polaris. So, is it here? Is it here? What about here? So, in order for the flat Earth model to make any sense, Polaris would have to be in multiple different spots, in multiple different directions, all at the exact same time.
Yeah, except the only problem is all you have to do is point it at Polaris to get the axis rotation point. So, you know, I don't even understand where he's coming up with this. You know, you basically put Polaris in the eyepiece. You actually physically align it in the eyepiece, you know, to be able to make this EQ mount work. Go ahead, John.
Well, what I was going to say is something that he's completely failing to consider is refraction. And, you know, the thing is you're going to have different refraction indexes for each one of these locations. And we'll just go ahead and assume that the weather conditions are all identical in all 4 of these points or 5 of these points or whatever. Just assume that for argument's sake. Even still, you're going to have the light from Polaris traveling through different angles through the atmosphere. And so, again, what he's assuming is that they have a line of sight, straight line path to Polaris in each one of these locations. And the fact of the matter is that's not the case. What they're looking at is going to be an apparent position of Polaris, and that's all depending on variables, including refraction. And so basically my argument to this whole thing's null and void, because he's assuming that you have a vacuum environment and you have a straight line of sight to Polaris in each one of these locations, and that simply isn't the case. So the whole rest of the argument that he has here is null and void.
Right. And the other thing,
supposedly, how much, I don't know, maybe distances are between those gaps in the red lines to, you know.
Right. Well, they're also assuming about a 4,000 mile ceiling, right? They're saying, well, we're taking it from the flat Earth model. It's like, look, there are certain things that show the geometry to triangulate anywhere between 3,400 and 4,000 miles. But there are a myriad of factors that affect that. And it's all irrelevant anyway, because what you're doing when you align the EQ mount is you are literally aligning directly to Polaris itself. You're optically aligning it to that. And I'm going to show that here in the next video. So this is just silly. This is just, you know, misdirection.
Yeah, it's literally so stupid that they point at Polaris and then it tracks its descents to the perceivable limit or horizon, and then it just continues to point at the ground like it knows the Earth's a ball. It's that stupid.
And the other problem is that this thing proves that there's only one thing rotating, which is the sky, obviously. But what about the other motions of the Earth around the sun and all the other motions that should be scrambling those stars?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Indeed.
Exactly.
Well, and what's so funny too, my friend Brian put together a Facebook page. He put a ton of work into his research and documented everything, but the Facebook page is called $5,000 NASA Eclipse Challenge. And one of the things that he surmised is that using Eratosthenes' method of, you know, triangulating on the sun and stuff, he got, and again, he wasn't figured in refraction either, like I mentioned, so I don't adhere to these numbers, but the numbers that he got for the distance to like either the sun or the moon, or I guess you could probably even put Polaris in there, was virtually identical to the spherical radius of the ball Earth. So there is some correlation here between, you know, the trickery of refraction and the spherical radius of the ball Earth. I think he got 3926 miles to the sun. So isn't that interesting?
Wait, doesn't the mount also have a gyro?
No, no, it's not gyro. I don't think it has a gyro in it. No, but
okay.
Here's the real problem with it, guys, is that he's using this side view, right? The side view that nobody uses, right? We don't look at the world through the side view, or the I forgot the term for this particular view. I'm sure one of you guys knows it, but
orthographic.
Orthographic view, yeah, or Muppet vision. There you go. We don't use Muppet vision or the orthographic view. We actually use our line of sight through perspective. So what we're actually looking at is, we're not looking at this orthographic view looking up towards Polaris. You know, we're looking at a completely different view, which this has nothing to do with, right?
That have you ever looked at something side on to see? This reminds me of God, where was it? It was one of the conferences, and I don't remember. Maybe it was. I don't know if it was Dallas or maybe it was even Canada, but somebody had brought a telescope and they were looking at the moon. So a bunch of people outside were all looking at the moon, and I walked down the parking lot and I looked back at the telescope. Have you ever? And I would encourage people to do this today. Like, if you have any kind of telescope-looking thing or some sort of tube, line it up across your street, point it at the moon, and then walk across the street and look sideways on, and it's not even close to aimed in the right direction. It's so weird. I wouldn't be able to describe it. And then I yelled at them, like, "Are you actually pointed at the moon?" Like, yeah. And when you stood back from the side, it looked like they were aimed way off.
Exactly.
Dude, and think about this. Like, you're just looking up at the sky, tracking its movement, assuming that you're not moving to compile any of the data, and then just saying that's all backwards.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yes, orthographic view versus first-person perspective, right? Looking at it from our perspective, which of course, not only does the math change, but the visual changes completely. Because when we look at things, our perspective causes the horizon to rise, the top to drop, and the sides to pull in, like looking down a set of railroad tracks. But they constantly do this. And the thing that they don't account for, which absolutely floors me, is we know for a fact that if you have something that's over your head and you're looking at it, and if it's staying perfectly at the same level, it will appear to rise on the horizon, hit its peak elevation over the top of you, and then drop back down to the horizon as it goes further. This is what our true perspective actually shows, and this is called the what did you term it, Jeran? The dome, not the dome of vision.
Personal atmospheric dome.
Oh, thank you.
Personal atmospheric dome, right? The PAD, the personal atmospheric dome, which is exactly how we actually do say things. And Ira's going to have an illustration for that here in a few minutes, as well as we're going to show you some stuff from P-Brain that shows how our perspective actually works, and why the EQ mount works because of that. But because of the fact that if we were truly on a ball, and they don't actually take our real perspective into account, there is no way that the EQ mount could possibly ever work on a ball because of the way that they say that it works. It simply would not work. So, and it's so simple, guys. It's so simple to look at it, to see how it tracks, and then put that in our personal atmospheric dome, our perspective, and it tracks perfectly on a single axis all the way across it. So let's continue on.
Now, I'm not willing to accept a contradictory answer like that, so let's take a look at the same exact points as plotted on a globe.
Yeah, maybe you should use the right math, Reds.
And would you look at that? Same points, same line of altitude relative to their local level, yet we see no contradiction here. In fact, this is what we would expect to see when focused on the pulsar Polaris.
Right. So what they've done here is, instead of taking the personal atmospheric dome, which also looks like this, they've simply reversed it and said, no, it's not our vision that's causing these points to arc like this. It is actually the Earth curvature, right? Sorry, Charlie, because yeah, this may work if there was no perspective involved, but because of the fact that you're not going to change the way that cameras work and the way that our eyes actually work, which would actually double up on this effect, you would get another dome even over the top of this, which would completely eliminate the EQ mount from working at all.
What's remarkable about this whole presentation that they crafted here, for me at least, is that whereas like when we look at something like from Ben conspiracy, taboo conspiracy, where you get observation, get data, you get actual observations, and you can compare. Here we have the halfway through the video, we had this orthographic view, plotting paper with lines, vectors, things that have nothing to do with reality whatsoever. So far, nothing. Google map, some lines on it, some driving numbers, angles, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. They do not. Boy, Austin keeps dropping in and out, but I got you, Austin.
Yeah, my bad. I don't even know what's going on. I have like good service on the iPad. It's supposed to kick me out. It's tripping.
No worries. Well, when you come back in, it goes boop. So I just add you back in. So no worries. So anyway, so what they've done is they have replaced the personal atmospheric dome with the Earth curvature, right? Because it just so happens that it works out that way, right? And by the way, guys, if you did not see the video that I mirrored from Dr. Zach, or Decimal Z, I should say, just a few days ago. That really goes a long ways towards explaining this particular phenomenon and what what also we're going to be talking about on Wednesday. It was absolutely brilliant, and Zach very much understands the geometry behind this. But all they have done here is simply reverse the personal atmospheric dome and replaced it instead with the so-called curvature of the Earth. And of course, the problem with this is because we have never been able to find the curvature of the Earth, guys. So you think that before you start assuming this R value, or that there is even any curvature, that you should probably want to find it first, which we've never have found it. So this is just complete fantasy. Let's continue.
Which is very, very, very far away. Zooming in a bit, you can see the angles listed that were plotted for each location. They are the same angles that were used in the previous model. So between the two models, it's clear which model I trust more. This shows the true shape of our planet. But with this data, we can go even further. We can also confirm the size of the Earth. So let's use our data to find a value for the radius. At the start of our trip in Walhalla, North Dakota, we recorded an altitude angle of 48.9 degrees. At the end of our trip in Alice, Texas, we recorded an altitude angle of 27.75 degrees. This gives us a difference of 21.15 degrees.
Okay, now I'm going to do...
One thing, the funny thing is that he measured the curvature of the Earth looking at the sky.
Right, exactly.
I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, hijack perspective.
Okay, gonna measure the curvature of on the ground. Look at the sky.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, no doubt. So hang on a second. 25,920.
On that Zach video, Bob, one thing that's interesting as well is that if the sun is a sphere, it could never have parallel rays, period. And rays is like the idea that what comes out of the sun is rays or vectors. It's also a total, like, what? It's not reality, man.
Right. Now, let me show you something. When you take this 21.15 degrees and you multiply it times the 69.169444 degrees, or miles per degree, so we go times 21.15. We get 1,462 miles. Now his driving directions, his driving distances were nearly 200 miles off from that. So I just wanted to mention that. So let's continue forward.
Even that was wrong.
Now, let's imagine we drove directly between our first and last stop to get the total distance between these 2 points. Granted, it's not a perfect line that would bring a mathematician joy, but it's good enough for our purposes. We're just looking to get within striking distance of the actual answer. So, with that said, the total distance we drove was 2,542.76 kilometers. Now, if 21.15 degrees equals 2,542.76 kilometers, what does 360 degrees equal? To find out, we will use this equation. 2,542.76 over 21.15 equals x over 360. Doing the math and solving for x, this gives us an answer for the circumference of the Earth, which comes to 43,281 kilometers. If we take that value and divide it by 2 pi, we will get a value for the radius of the Earth. Solving this out, we get 6,888 kilometers. The accepted value is 6,371 kilometers, which means despite our imperfect method, we are within 8% of the accepted value. Not bad at all, and there you have it, a value for R. So not only can we confirm the shape of the Earth with an equatorial mount, we can also figure out a value for R. But before we conclude this video, there is one other fact I would like to discuss.
Now the problem is they figured out the value for R using math that already assumed the value for R in it, in those degrees, right? So this told us nothing. This is complete horse hockey.
Oh my goodness.
So let's continue forward.
Remember what was shown at the beginning of this video. We watched as an EQ mount was able to track a celestial object perfectly, giving us the stacked image by rotating only one axis. Now, would this be possible on a flat Earth?
Absolutely.
Absolutely not. The simple fact is this. If we were on a flat Earth, the EQ mount would have to move 2 axes of rotation in order to track any object in the sky.
Now they do that by assuming again that the ceiling, so-called ceiling, is up at 4,000 miles, right? Again, completely taking out the idea of perspective, right, and how it creates this dome of vision, this personal atmospheric dome. And again, they want to apply an orthographic type of vision to it. Sorry, guys. All you're doing is reversing the Earth curvature for the actual perspective of the eye. And it's an obvious trick. And, unfortunately, you still cannot get rid of that perspective of the eye. And when you add that back in, it completely destroys the EQ mount for use on a ball Earth, period. Continue on.
Not just the one axis that has been demonstrated to work in reality. Here is a video that demonstrates what I'm saying. Many thanks to Slice of Arcane for making the following illustration.
See, 5,000 kilometer high target, right? So that's what they're going to do. They're going to straw man it right there by putting that at 5,000 kilometers high. And again, then using orthographic values for this, right? Completely wrong. And all of this is just nonsense, right? We don't even have to watch the rest of this.
Something that they need to do to, definitely prove his assumption is, for example, take all these measurements 30 kilometers up in the atmosphere and trying to look at Polaris at those altitude.
Agreed.
And look, send some balloons. Of course, I am not going to, saying, okay, go up into a gondola and make the measurement, but send balloons with the telescope, trying to, move remotely and trying to point Polaris 30 kilometers up and do all the calculation and things like that.
Yep.
Because if not, you are looking under a water. You're just trying to point an object in the reflection of the atmosphere, which reacts as a water, and you don't know where that point is in terms of distance. So you are assuming a lot of factors in this case.
Exactly. And what that will do by doing it up higher in the elevation, it will eliminate the refraction abilities, but still they have not compensated for the perspective, right? The way perspective actually works and the way that it gives us the personal atmospheric dome. So again, they're never going to be able to get around that because they simply want to deny the way that the eye works and the way that optics work, which you can't do that. You cannot use an orthographic view to replace a first-person view, perspective vision. You just can't. So
they pretend that they can model reality in these orthographic views in these little maps without taking into account the atmospheric conditions every single time. They have to do this. It's kind of like the astrophysicists asking why is it he cannot see the Eiffel Tower from Florida. They're out of their minds. They never even learned that they are atmospheric conditions, even though in every climate forecast, weather forecast, you have visibility as an issue.
Well, it's just so telling how.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say it's just telling how they cherry pick their arguments. Like in certain situations, they will use refraction just all day long. They'll argue refraction, standard refraction and all that nonsense. But then when it comes to arguments like this, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe he'll bring up refraction later on in this presentation, but just completely altogether ignore refraction 100% when it isn't convenient for their argument.
Yeah, think about how stupid it is from a macro perspective. Like the cyclical nature of the sky has been known for thousands of years, and celestial navigation has been utilized for a long time. We actually probably don't even know how long. And I think that somehow, if they reverse engineer that over the course of time, and then they just make up a speculation about an R value based on reverse engineering and assuming that everything we observe is the opposite of the truth, that they can fast forward a few hundred years and say, look, dude, we proved the Earth's a ball, dumb flat earthers. Like, how stupid is that?
Exactly. Okay.
It is. It's typical, though. It's just that it's just all over the place. You'll find that sort of antics.
Yep. So true. So now what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to look at how they say an EQ mount works from a source that is not Red's rhetoric. And I'm going to point something out. Well, I'm going to point out exactly what I said before, but this one, they're as bold as to directly show it, right? So let's go ahead and play this. And this is only a 3-minute video. So we'll go ahead and play this so you get a little lesson in how EQ mounts actually work. And then I will show you why they can only work on a flat Earth and they cannot work in any way, shape, or form on the ball Earth, even under their paradigm. Why? Because they are omitting the optical perspective that not only our eyeballs have, but as well as our telescopes, cameras, and everything else has. You cannot get away from that, period. Let's move.
Even barrel distortion didn't get into their textbooks.
No, nothing. No, they want to do it all orthographic view, and it just doesn't work. Sorry. Let's go.
The German equatorial mount was invented by Joseph von Fraunhofer. Equatorial mounts are used in astronomy. Its function is to cancel out Earth's rotation and pointing at celestial objects while carrying a telescope. The Earth turns around in 23 hours 56 minutes and 4.0989 seconds. This is called a sidereal day. The mount has 4 axes. Azimuth is for keeping your mount parallel with Earth's rotation axis, and altitude for adjusting your latitude on Earth. So your telescope can be used no matter where you are, on the northern hemisphere and also the southern hemisphere. So if you are like me in the Netherlands, roughly on 52° latitude, you put the altitude at 52°, pointing to magnetic north.
Right. So what they're doing here is, as they slide this down the side of the globe, what they're doing is they are sliding it down on the inside of the personal atmospheric dome. This is what this translates to, is it translates to how we see it through our perspective, through our personal atmospheric dome. And this is essentially emulating that. But again, they're using a side view of this, right? Which I'm sorry, it just doesn't work. You cannot do it that way. You cannot eliminate the human eye and its optics characteristics, as well as camera and telescope optics. So let's continue.
But and real quick, I wonder if Red's rhetoric put the caveat in here that he's not accounting for any sort of refraction. He's assuming that that we exist in a vacuum, and he's assuming that light is traveling in a perfectly straight, rectilinear path from Polaris to the optics. And if he doesn't make those caveats and he's not accounting for refraction, again, his major premise is null and void. The whole rest of his argument is it's a big fat nothing burger.
Right, and he also has to assume that we are in an orthographic view, that we view everything orthographically, which we don't.
And that as well, of course, that as well, yeah.
It's ridiculous. All right, let's continue.
A program like Polar Finder shows the current position of Polaris. Now using the polar scope, we can adjust for true northern celestial pole. Turn the right ascension so that the Polaris marking is on the correct place, and adjust altitude and azimuth to center Polaris.
So remember what I said about you actually optically align it directly to Polaris. You don't take the value from any mathematical or anything like that. You actually align the EQ mount telescope on Polaris itself, and then that gives you the arc, the necessary arc, a single arc that will track a star from rise to set. And that's how it works. So let's continue.
In the circle. The declination axis is for pointing at the stars. Right ascension is for compensating Earth's rotation and pointing at stars. Now we point at an object in the sky. If we now start tracking at sidereal rate, the object stays centered in your telescope. This can be done for hours, until the object disappears on the horizon. Thank you for watching.
All right, there you have it. So we've given it its fair due. And as you can see, in the heliocentric model, in the ball Earth model, everything is done through an orthographic view, which is not real perspective. It's Muppet vision, right? And it doesn't take into account any atmospheric conditions or perspective. And to be honest, the only thing that would take any atmospheric conditions into The flat Earth model of it would, of course, be simply aligning onto Polaris, because if the atmosphere is slightly different, it may refract Polaris very slightly one direction or another, but really not enough to really be worried about, because it is supposedly our due north star, right? So there you have it. So now, let's see, let me go ahead and stop this one. I am going to bring up the P-Brain video that I showed last time. Hang on just a second. If anybody has any comments, feel free to make them.
Yeah, no, one question maybe is a very, very naive question, but the equatorial mount has a motor or something like that?
Yes, it does. It actually, it tracks that roughly about 15 degrees per hour across the sky, across a single arc.
So the equatorial mount needs to move instead of being in one, one single. I mean, if the Earth rotates, why the equatorial mount needs a rotor to follow the stars?
Well, because that's what it's compensating for, right? Is that Earth rotation? Because again, they're not showing this honestly. They're not showing it in a personal atmospheric dome perspective. And
okay,
that's why it has
but I get what you were saying.
Fair enough that we can say the motor or the rotor inside the equatorial mount is following the movement of the stars.
Yes, exactly.
That's what it's doing. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
So it couldn't possibly be. And you're right. If the Earth was spinning, why should it be doing that? It should be only doing the compensation for the other motions or whatever it is that
yeah, the up and down move based on perspective, but not the rotation.
The stars are, and let's say this.
Oops, sorry. Okay, so all right, now let's look at this from how the telescope will see it. Now, we're going to be looking at it from an orthographic view as to how we're looking at the personal atmospheric dome, but again, the telescope is looking at it as we would see it, the stars, right? It's looking at it from within the dome itself, the personal atmospheric dome. And again, Iru has a demonstration for this, and we'll show that right after I play this thing from P-Brain. But essentially what happens is when you have the stars above us like this, then when we look at it, the things that are further away will tend to drop down on the horizon, right? And then as you come up over the top of you, it goes higher up on the horizon, and then you look away and it drops back down on the horizon again. What does that form? It forms a dome. It forms the personal atmospheric dome that Jeran has been talking about, right? So we're going to look, I'm going to let P-Brain explain this, and then when you understand what's going on with the EQ mount telescope, it's so simple. It's so simple what's actually happening here. So let's watch this for just a second. Oops.
We see the dome of our perspective vision, which is about a 12,000 mile diameter circle or 6,000 mile radius. That's all the stars we can see. And the stars lower to the horizon at the edge of that circle, of a 12,000 diameter circle. So as you move, this dome of stars moves with you, or your dome of vision, I call it. Anyway, let's check it out. Well, just like, let's say you're standing at the North Pole, right? And the stars rotate. You have Polaris overhead, and the stars are rotating around you counterclockwise. As you move south, Polaris starts to lower in the northern sky, and the stars start to tip. It's almost, I like to think of it as like a salad bowl, right? And so the salad bowl has the bottom is up, that's where Polaris is, and the rim of the bowl is on the ground. That's also where the sun would go around from your perspective at the North Pole.
Okay, I'll kick forward here.
So as you head south, the solid bowl starts to tip onto its side. And so that, let's say you travel 3,000 miles south of the North Pole.
Okay, so let me just show you something really quick here. Now, again, remember, the guy on the inside is seeing the stars from the personal atmospheric dome, or from the first person perspective, right? Not orthographic. We're looking at him looking at that orthographically, but from his point of view, he's seeing things like they are being shown, to our dome of vision, right? Our personal atmospheric dome. So now all you have to do is imagine that he's got a telescope here, and he aligns that telescope towards Polaris, right? And because this is now tipped over, all of these stars are now rising over here, going up over the dome and coming down on the other side on a single axis, right? Rising, peaking, and then setting on the other side. And that is the single axis that the EQ mount will then track it on.
Everything would be rising in the northeast, sweeping out over the southern sky, and setting in the northwest, like this, right? And if you go all the way to the equator, Polaris would now be sitting on your northern horizon. The solid bowl would be completely tipped on its side, and half of it would be below the horizon. And now all the stars would be coming up east to west. And so the sun would also rise east to west. And now that's a hard one to visualize, because if the stars are all rotating like a big disk around Polaris in the sky, a big flat disk, or if they're not a disk, they're a big dome, whichever one they are, if that's the case, and if it's a big flat disk and it's just perspective that's bringing the stars down, well, then the people in the south say, hey, well, the stars should be rotating just above the horizon, right? And stay equidistant to the horizon as they go around counterclockwise. That's what they'd say we should see. But that's not what we should see. We should see a clockwise southern rotation of the stars. See, we already know from crepuscular and anti-crepuscular rays how perspective works on a grand scale. I mean, that's over 12,000 miles. You see the sun rays diverging out from the sun, and then perspective converges them down to the other horizon. That's over a 12,000 mile span. Yeah, and just a little quick side note here. As I was doing the video, I thought of this. It's like, wow, we could see the sun, right? That's 6,000 miles away from us when it's rising. And if it's throwing out crepuscular rays and then anti-crepuscular rays, and the anti-crepuscular rays are going another 6,000 miles to the other side where they're converging, that's a 12,000 mile total. How is it we can see that on a ball? I mean, that seems to work for a flat Earth, but how does it work for a ball?
Yeah, excellent question, P-Brain. All right, so that's it. That is what we're looking at. The personal atmospheric dome takes the place of where they are saying that the EQ mount is going down the side of the ball. So the side of the ball is analogous to the personal atmospheric dome. But again, they still have to deal with that first person view, which they're not, which then makes it impossible to work at all on a globe. And that's it, guys. It's as simple as that. Any comments?
Yes, I completely agree what P-Brain said and show. But yes, we have a lot of factors to compensate when we're trying to, first of all, the indirect confirmation of the curvature of the Earth for me is something really, bad to, in our days at least, think about it, because we need to be able to measure directly the curvature of the Earth. And we have so many examples that is not the case. We are looking so far away from the math of the spherical Earth, particularly with the infrared observations. For example, the Chitolan, he shows 3 times what the spherical Earth supposedly, it's supposedly 10 kilometers, 300 kilometers. He shows object 900 kilometers, which is 3 times more than the prediction of the globe Earth. And when you are looking at that altitude, you are having very low distortion in the refraction, because you are above the, in the atmosphere, and you can see very distinguished objects in the distance, and you don't have that Fata Morgana effect all the time. So that contradicts everything of the observation on the ground. That is why I always trying to at least give the idea that if someone had the chance to make observations and calculations from different, not just point of view, but also altitude, because the refraction factor is very important to trying to get off,
Yeah, any of the arguments looking at celestial lights, any arguments for curvature in that sort of regard, they never, and this goes all the way back to Eratosthenes, as I mentioned earlier. They never seem to mention refraction, because look, if you're standing at the North Pole, right, and Polaris is directly overhead, 90 degrees overhead, there should be really close to zero refraction. But then let's say you move to the equator and you're looking at Polaris, it's going to be right near the horizon, or maybe below the horizon. So we'll say 45 degrees north. Polaris is going to be 45 degrees azimuth, right? Or 45 degrees elevation angle rather. And so the thing is you don't have a straight line of sight towards Polaris. It's passing through the atmosphere, and so there necessarily is going to be refraction. But if you don't account for that, I thought math is reality. Well, don't you have to account for that sort of thing in reality? I mean, come on.
Well, again, because of the fact that you are optically aligning it to Polaris, then you don't really have to account for it, because the angles may vary slightly if you were to kind of back engineer and look at what's happening on the EQ mount telescope itself, but it's not going to be enough to really matter, right? Because there's the least amount of refraction that's going to happen is going to happen at Polaris. Why? Because it's directly north of us, right? And of course, the further north you are in latitude, or the further south you are, if you're calibrating to Sigma Octantis, then the less you have to worry about that, right? But
I disagree. I think that, like, let's say we lived in a vacuum. I would say that from 45 degrees north, I believe Polaris would be way higher up than 45 degrees over the elevation angle. I think it has a lot to do with it, personally. I mean, I could be wrong. There's no real way to check that in reality, because, frankly, we don't live in a vacuum. But I don't know. My gut hunch, my opinion is that refraction has a lot to do with the elevation angles of the celestial light. Hello now. Did I lose you?
Hello. You still copy me? You hear me? Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
You can hear me now. Okay.
We can hear you now. Yeah.
All right. So anyway, again, stupid switch. I agree with you, because again, the further you're getting away from north, down towards 45, the more that salad bowl tips, the more refraction there's going to be. I agree.
I see what you were saying at 90 degrees north, right? Yeah, there should be practically zero refraction at that point at 90 degrees north for Polaris, right?
Exactly.
Yep.
Much like I've said also a million times before, the whole curvature argument thing. They want us to believe that light is bending, on the globe, that it's always bending down. But the problem is that if you, like I said, if you take a laser and you set it perfectly level and you fire it straight forward, as the laser goes out away from the Earth is dropping away from it and falling away from it, which means that the laser itself is going higher and higher and higher in altitude. Well, what is required for something to refract downwards? It has to enter a medium that is thicker, that is more viscous than the medium that it was in, right? So this is completely counterproductive and counterintuitive to what's actually happening in the globe model. In the globe model, as that laser is moving away, the atmosphere is getting thinner and thinner and thinner, which it would be more likely then that the lasers would refract upwards. And what do we see when we see, like, FE Core has gone out there and do these? We've actually seen the lasers refract what? Upwards. In fact, I don't really think I've ever seen anything refract downwards. And even if it did, the only reason that it would be is because you would have different density layers that are along the ground that would be commensurate. They would be happening because of temperature, humidity changes that would be close to the ground, either because of water or whatever,
and
right?
Atmospheric pressure. It's also
and atmospheric pressure. Absolutely.
A few years ago, food for thought. A few years ago, Karen B threw these numbers into AutoCAD for me because I suck at AutoCAD. Maybe Iru could do this too, but anybody out there that would like to do it. So if you take the numbers, the elevation angle for Polaris at these different latitudes, you can triangulate on Polaris to get the approximate distance. And when Karen B threw it into AutoCAD, it was something like less than 300,000 miles to Polaris, according to the ball Earth model, and taking that elevation angle data and using that to triangulate on it. So I'm pretty sure that however many, 28 light years or whatever, 2.8 trillion miles or something like that to Polaris, as they say, is way off. Way off.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, well, yeah.
was going to mention one thing that's interesting with the observations of the star trails that I was noticing recently is that even if you, and I wonder how that works with the equatorial mound, but when they taking these images that are kind of lopsided, you still get a perfect. I mean, yeah, with the equatorial mound has nothing to do with it. Of course, star trails you don't need it. But when you're looking at Polaris and having the actual star trails going through, if it's lopsided view at it, you still get a perfect circle, which is, I think, is very interesting. You can kind of see, almost perceive this kind of almost like a vault. That's why they talk the vault of the sky, right? You can see that kind of shape. And I remember me and my wife outside in Portugal, we ended up walking for a long time and it turned dark and we were under the stars with nobody around. And you can kind of see the vault, or that, I don't know if this is the personal atmospheric dome, but and it would be interesting to see if refraction indeed is in atmospheric conditions are changing that perception. It would be interesting to see at night, and you would have to make, I guess, many star trails or other long exposures in many days from the same place to different atmospheric conditions, and be parsing in all that data and comparing with the observations.
Yeah.
But,
exactly.
Yeah.
And John, to address what you said, Polaris initially, just a few years back, was said to be at about 450 light years away from us. They then changed it to about 323 or 325, something like that. Anyway, they made it a full third closer, which is something like 700 and something trillion miles. And then they act like, oh, no big deal. Yeah,
Yeah.
all the math still works. It's like, whatever, dude,
But again, what to me is so funny, though, is when you plug in those numbers, the elevation angle to Polaris, how close it is according to their very model. But it's like nobody ever thought in all of globe Earth history, nobody ever thought to check that sort of math. To me, that is really one of the most amazing things, is that people never went in and actually checked it.
Yeah, it's absolutely, it's crazy. It's crazy. So Red's rhetoric, I'm sorry, dude, but your deception of trying to lead people around by an orthographic view cannot and will not ever work. The thing that is amazing to me is that you deny your own eyes. And when I say you deny your own eyes, you deny the way that your eyes are seeing things. The fact that perspective from your eyes, as well as any optical lens, will cause things to converge from top to bottom to top, left to center, and right to center. That's the way that your eyeballs and your optics work. And you can even do the trig on that and calculate that right in, and you'll find that I think a lot of these numbers that they came up with us are just simply back engineered from the specifications of the human eye. But nobody is going to buy your lies about this orthographic view, because that is not how we see. And as soon as people wake up to that fact and realize that we have a completely different way of seeing and a different perspective than what you're showing, you're never going to get anywhere. So Ira, you have something that you did, I think, in Cinema 4D that kind of shows how Cinema 4D renders in that program. Is that something you can show us?
Yes, I'm sharing my screen right now. You need to enable the...
All right, let me do that. Let me, hang on a second. Add to stream.
Okay.
There you go.
So first of all, what I have a really basic, idea to trying to show in terms of graphics how perspective works, and it's very easy to understand. This green triangle represents the camera, which is this object here, and I attach like it was like a target object to follow. So in this case, I say to the camera that always follow this object. So when I move this object here, the camera is automatically following in terms of the angle of the camera. You can see the angle changes in this slot here. So if I put the sphere right on top, you're going to have almost 90 degrees angle looking at that object. But imagine that this is stars. This is just a start, and the camera, it's a person that it's moving away from Polaris, which is in this case is a 90 degree because we are supposedly on the North Pole. So if the guy start falling, start going out from Polaris, it's automatically is going to compensate for that distance, and you're going to be a particular moment that your distance is so far away that you are almost looking at the horizon. Here is the interpretation of the camera, and let me just go a little more out. So I am just moving. The idea here is that I'm moving the camera in a straight path, follow the ground. But in appearance, you are looking at the object appears to move towards the horizon until if I move it very, very far away, of course, the object is going to disappear. This is the horizon line. Of course, we are looking without any compensation right now for the atmosphere. If we are processing some kind of atmosphere simulation right now, this object already disappeared because the glass effect accumulated by the distance and the density of the atmosphere is going to produce that disappearance. But the idea here is that I go far away from Polaris, and for me, because I need to compensate the distance, moving the angle of the camera, right now we are only aiming 1 degree on the horizon, and we start with 90 degrees looking at Polaris. We can do the same thing, but in reverse. So we can, for example, move now Polaris instead of moving the camera. And this is how perspective works. If I am a guy standing up right here and I trying to follow, I don't know, maybe a finger that other person show me with the arm lift up, and the person start walking away, is going to reach a moment that my head is going to go from up to down to follow that object, in this case the finger of my friend, but the arm, it still measure the same thing. So right now, if I start moving the sphere, the camera is going to follow. I never move this up and down. I just move parallel to the ground, and of course the camera is going to aim almost to the ground in some part of the movement of this object. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say, but
no, you're saying it perfectly. Exactly, it drops on the horizon just like we would perceive it to.
Exactly, but the altitude relative to the ground, in this case of this object, never change. It's always at the same altitude. What it changed was distance and perspective. That is why the appearance of the camera needs to tilt down to keep looking at that object. And that is, for me, what happened with, in this case, Polaris. It's simply as that. If you are on the North Pole, of course, you're going to look almost straight up. But if you go to equator, you need to compensate distance with that angle in terms of the camera tilt. And that is why you are looking into the horizon, not because the Earth is a sphere. Of course, on top of that, we need to compensate for the refractions effect in the way that we look, but not only we as a human, but also cameras and every living being here on this plane of existence. The first thing is, and I showed this many times in the past, but the first thing is that this is an understanding astronomical refraction, and this is an original book from NASA. And the first thing that, because this is provided by NASA Observatory data system, and what they mention in this particular paper is that, first of all, when you're trying to understand astronomical refraction, of course, you need to have in mind like the surface of the Earth is completely flat, because you are looking maybe in a small portion or whatever, but they, this is like the same thing with the documents when they construct planes or helicopter or missiles, whatever. You always assume that the Earth is flat and stationary. So what they are saying in this paper is that if you are here on the ground and you're trying to do an astronomical observation, you're gonna have like these 20 degrees of completely distortion in terms of the horizon. And it doesn't matter the altitude that you observe. If you are, I believe, inside of 10 kilometers, you are going to have this type of problems in the, you know, I don't say 10 kilometers, but maybe from sea level to 3-4 kilometers, you're going to have this problem with the horizon and the 20 degrees of that proportion. What I mean, let me just show very quickly. What I mean is that this is what happened, but it doesn't matter if you are, of course, if you are on the ground, because you have more atmospheric pressure, maybe the effect is going to be more notices. I don't know how to pronounce that.
Noticeable. Yes.
Notable. Yeah, exactly. But here we can see this was a time where the Twin Towers are still in the landscape, but this is just a move in terms of 3 meters from the ground level to from the sea level to 3 meters on the air. And here you can clearly see how the object in terms of the base disappear in this gradient of observations parallel to the horizon, of course. But the same thing happened with the sun or whatever object is in that horizon gradient. Of course, we can see more pronounced the effects with more time-lapse videos, because the atmospheric pressure and the temperature always change. But if you compress that in the time lapse, you're going to have more dramatic effects, and you can clearly see more visual. We have here another examples, but also we can see examples, for example, in this case from 3,000 meters above the sea level, and you can notice that with the star trails, because, you know, if you pay attention, right now it's almost like a straight line. You can see some disturbance here, but when it's going to reach that angle in particular, you know, parallel to the horizon, the appear horizon line, the effect in the star is going to change dramatically, very dramatically. You can see it. So it doesn't matter where you are. I believe that this effect is not maybe so pronounced if you are 10 kilometers above the sea level, but in all the places where we can put equipment, you know, fix equipment and do really precise observation, we are going to lead with this effect. And that is why in the paper, in the article of NASA astronomical observation, you need to understand astronomical refraction. Of course, they call astronomical refraction because you are trying to observe stars, the sun, the moon, you know, astronomical object. But you can apply this to, you know, buildings, mountains, whatever, because the effects is the same thing. I don't know if you are following.
I'm following 100%. What about the rest of you guys?
So here you can.
I just to jump in. I keep going because this is incredible. I'm just loving this session. Has been fantastic.
You're nailing it, Drew. You're nailing it.
You're nailing it.
Thank you.
Keep going.
So
yeah, dude, keep late.
Okay, so this is from the same height, but looking at the sun, and here you can see all the compression in that type of gradient. Even you can see like a duplicate type of effect, so you cannot see where the actual position of this object really is. But this is what they are. Here you can see clear compression, because for example, right now, of course, it's not a complete sphere. But if you start looking from the middle to the bottom part of the sun, now start to compress, and always happen at that particular gradient and based on your angle of observation, but everything converge into the horizon. So here, the same example with that we have. Of course, this is more, you can notice more. But this is the idea of why they, how can I say that? Why they recommend you that don't take into account observations at that gradient from 0 to 20 degrees, because you are not going to look the actual object. So that is the first, thing to at least have in mind. And then if I try to recreate that into computer software, what I did was I create this very simple scenario. Of course, we are leading with linear models here, and the reality is more complex than linear interpretations. So we need to, that is why the orthographic view is like the most simplistic way to trying to present visual idea. Is very basic. It's like almost something that you cannot use for this type of observation. You can use orthographic view for construction purposes, for engineering purposes, for things like that, which is not involved all the complexity of something called atmosphere, which is really insane if you trying to imagine how that came up into our world, right? So we need to fake it, or we need to, trying to achieve the same effect that only can be produced in so long distances of air accumulating, and among those distance you need you have completely different gradient of temperature, of atmospheric pressure. So we have like thousands of variables that we cannot recreate in computer, but at least we can, we have a phenomena that we can observe, which in this case is the distortion in terms of the refraction, distortion in the atmosphere. So we are trying to recreate that in a simplistic way, but I believe for the purpose of the explanation works perfectly. So what I did was like create this, parallel ground, which is represented in this case with the green color. I put a random object. You can say that this is a building, whatever. And this object in the middle is like a dome that is going to represent the atmosphere. It has like glass material in terms of 3D, because it's one of the most easy ways to recreate all the behavior of refraction and reflection, both at the same time, and always, and also transparency. So this tiny glass dome represent maybe hundreds of kilometers of atmosphere. So what I did also is just put a light source. In this case is a volumetric light source, because we also had to have in mind that we are, and I think David really showed that effects when he filmed from the drone, the sun disappear in the distance in a very short period of time. You are looking the sun, a lot of the time of the video, but in just 3 seconds the sun disappear. And that is because you need to imagine that our volumetric effects in the atmosphere, it's like a logarithmic thing. It's going to be really, 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 not noticeable, but suddenly the curve is going to say whoop very fast.
Yep.
So
I got to tell you, I love the fact that you used 100 kilometers for that dome, because as I've said a million times, that's where I think the firmament is about 100 kilometers, 63 miles. So that's a great altitude for you to set that at.
Okay, so thank you, man.
Isn't that about where they say the Kármán line is too, right around that 60 miles area?
Yes,
that, and also the sodium layer that they project the artificial stars onto. It's also the place where the sprites and elves discharge up and flatten out, right at that 100 kilometer mark. There is so much evidence, people, that there is something there at 100 kilometers. It is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So yeah, continue on. Oops, still there? Uh-oh.
No, sorry guys, I mute myself because I am not using headphones, and so when someone speak, I try to mute so the sound is not so terrible. So the thing is that, like I mentioned before, the volumetric effects of the light into a medium, in this case the atmosphere, you need to have into account when you are trying to explain why the sun doesn't shrink and why the sun, for example, disappear quickly. It's because the volumetric effects based on the light how behave when it enters into a dense medium. And of course, that is also relative with the distance. So I create this light source, which represent the sun. It doesn't matter the scale of the sun, emitting volumetric light. And it's going just to have, like I showed before, it's going to have like a parallel move, parallel relative to the ground. I'm going just to move from left to right. But the important thing is that this is a camera inside this personal atmospheric dome, and this is the God view. So we are going to pay attention into the sun refraction, which already noticed that the sun is above the ground, but the person inside is going to look that light source just above the horizon. So when the light starts moving left to right, you can see here, for example, and here, you're going to see not just that the light comes to you, that is why we have night and day, but also the refraction is going to move up in terms of your personal dome. It's just going to move from the horizon line relative, based on the observer, is going to start moving up to your head.
Yep, this is real life, folks. This is what actually is happening.
Yeah, at least for me, this has more sense than the global, right?
I 100% agree with you. You're a 1,000,000% on this. This is absolutely how I think it works.
And then when the light source keep moving and going in the straight line, always maintain the same distance above the ground, it's going to go far away. And here we are in this God view, which is not atmospheric distortion. So you're gonna see the spherical ball of light keeping its morphology. It's not going to distort. But here, the camera inside the atmospheric dome is going to notice the distortion that we are presented in real life examples. More towards the horizon, the compression of the atmosphere is going to be more pronounced. So now we have that narrow, distortion of the light in this 20 degrees gradient of observation. Of course, if we look from outside that personal atmospheric dome, the sun still keep its original shape, which is in this case an spherical object. But here now we can see that the sun starts to disappear in the horizon, but in the God's view never disappear because God can see without refraction distortion in this case, if you want to use that analogy. So if you are living with all the atmospheric layering and effects and refraction and volumetric things like that, is going to reach a point that the object is going to disappear from your view, not because the curvature of the air, but because all these effects that it produces looking into the a lot of density of in this case the water particles that are in the atmosphere. Of course, the object is not going to shrink down, because in reality the object is going to shrink, but it's going to compensate. It's like when you look through a glass of water and you move
as it moves further away, it's actually going to lens it, and it's going to magnify as it gets further away. And that's something, by the way, that compensates. A lot of people will say, how come the sun never changes angular size? Well, first of all, guys, it does. We have looked at it through a solar
very
filter,
small.
But it's a very small change. Now, the reason it's a very small change is because as it's coming towards you, it would be further away, but it's coming towards you, and it would be angular size would be growing larger, but as it's coming towards you, the atmospheric magnification would be coming less and less and less. They would kind of offset each other, and it would not change overall much in angular size. And then as it passes over the top of you and starts going away, its angular side would be reducing, but then the atmospheric magnification would be then amplifying that. And again, the net result would be that it didn't change size much. So that's I think what you're trying to say.
I was gonna ask
absolutely
you,
right.
point out as well that I think the first model that you showed did not have the coffee cup caustic and all these other atmospheric effects, right, Iru? Because you have another one that
but here, for example, this one does. This is another simulation with the same type of
more density in the actual dome itself. Is that happening here or no?
What?
In terms of is there more kind of stuff being simulated inside that dome than the other?
Yes, I use, in this case, this is just a native render engine inside Cinema, and this is engine, and this is Arno render, which allows to produce more realistic light behavior. But the object and the setup itself, it's the same thing. I have a personal dome based on glass material. I have a source light, and the idea here is to, again, I move the light source parallel to the ground, left to right. I am not changing the direction, but in this case, I can create the effect that we see in real life when you, for example, see the cloud that has like a focal point, but you also have another focal point on the top of the cloud, or you start having this mixed idea that it's the sun inside the cloud or it's outside. That all that confusion that came from this type of light, how reacts light with volumetric things. And for example, in this case, we can recreate something that emulate what we see in real life when we have this type of sun ducts, and that is, sometimes the atmospheric conditions are the ideal to produce this type of anisotropic light reaction. And also you can simulate in computer, because computer trying to make the more accurate results getting from real life. But all these phenomena, it's only possible, of course, if we live inside of some kind of dense medium, dense relative to the light, because light, how weight light. So what is, how can you, determine how dense for the light is the atmosphere? For us to breathe is like breathing nothing, but for light, which doesn't have any type of particle or nothing, maybe the air is enough dense to produce, and in fact is enough dense to produce all this kind of light behavior.
Yeah, and pay attention to that, because I want to show something after. So look at the screen, look at the sun dogs, look at the various light things, and then I'll show you the simulation later.
I was going to ask you, have you ever tried, or is it possible to simulate the analemma phenomena and then find out if the sun is, what's happening if the sun is getting closer and farther, and depending on the time of the year and so on?
No, I am not a great guy with numbers and angles and distances, things like that. I am more of a visual guy, and maybe to do that kind of simulation with the analemma and things like that, I need to plug some measurements, and I think Dr. Sack is better than me to do that. I can render, I can get in the data in terms of not atmospheric distortion, not in the data, raw data, and then we can process and trying to look how those data translate when you are trying to look with all these atmospheric reactions.
Is it possible to do it? You're saying it's possible to do it just with all the data in it?
I think yes. I think we can see, because something that really for me confused a lot of people is particular is this, and I can show you this in the example, because when you are looking, for example, the moon that have some distinguished feature to identify. Of course, if you have the moon to your up into your head, and I think I have an animation here to show the example. I believe it's this one. Well, we can say that this is the moon, for example. But if you pay attention to the texture, of course, if you have above of your head, you are going to see to think, okay, I'm looking straight to the object. But when the object start going away, why I'm still, it's like I'm still looking at the front face.
At the front,
the same face, and I'm still having those same features to identify. So a lot of people confuse that phenomena, or that phenomena, because they assume that the only way to that kind of thing happen is because the object here, I am here, and this is the moon up here. So the only way to I'm still looking the same features in the moon surface is because the moon is doing this and showing me the same face all the time along the moon travel. Okay, but that is not the case. The case is that the moon, or whatever is up in the sky, is always face in the same direction, and it's an appearance that right now this object is looking at me. This object never changed the orientation and never changed the altitude. The only thing that happened is that the atmospheric personal domes make this visual reaction. I don't know how to describe it in English. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say.
Optical illusion.
Optical phenomena, we can call it.
There you go.
The Muna Ema, is it every month, right? That you can take it. It's a faster one to try to catch, right?
Yeah. Yes. And in fact, here we can see with, and this is made in the lab. And this is very, I really love this example, because this is just nanotubes of carbon nanotubes that it's just receive heat changes, and you can recreate the Fata Morgana effects. With, if you transfer this into, of course, the atmosphere, is the same thing. This is inside of a water tank, small water tank, and they just induce different, heat to that nanotubes. And here you can see the real world effects. And
That's
that
awesome.
is what happened. And that is what happened with our real world. That is why you had some days that the object appears, some days the object disappears from the horizon, and it's very clear. We don't have any geometrical curve. We have all these factors, and these guys, when they do the orthographic measurements, they don't take this in. Even this simple thing into consideration.
They can't because everything to them, it doesn't matter what it is, no matter what the phenomenon is, it has to be caused by Earth curvature. Until you say, okay, well then where is the physical Earth curvature? Then they say, oh, well, you can't see that. It's like, wait a minute, how can you not see the required physical geometric curvature, the horizon line where the sky literally meets the land or water? How can you not see that? How is that something that you can no longer see? I mean, talk about moving the globe posts. They are unbelievable. They're so dishonest.
Well, one thing that is interesting related to what you just said is that I keep looking at Shetland's kind of nature people. There's people putting pictures of auroras, all kinds of stuff. And one guy made an observation, which was this very far away island in two different sizes. Exactly what we do, because these islanders, when they're there out with these strong cameras, when you're looking at this very far away island, different days, it changes. It gets bigger, it gets smaller, and that couldn't possibly be the curvature. Obviously, the curvature is just out of the question by then. You're dealing with atmospheric conditions, and that's what you have to try to understand there. And then, people who live in locations like this, they to study this, I think they should be doing long-term kind of observations from the same locations and taking into account all these other factors, right?
Yeah,
Trying to
and I showed this many times in the past, but remember that the red light is the more slow light that we have. And in this example, it's very nice because they produce like some type of Michael Morrison effect in terms of the user laser, split into the mirror and making all these reflection, blah, 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 and project into this final object. And the fascinating thing is that this is the light of the laser project in the final in this final piece of glass. But
Making
when
a hologram.
Yeah, and but the nice thing is that when he introduced heat to the atmosphere, this small atmosphere, the light it's going down. It's going to project not in the start position, but it's going to push the light down.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see, for example, from Canigou or all these phenomena in the atmosphere, that is also that you can see happens in terms of the compression of the air, the atmospheric pressure, the temperature changes, because when we know that more high you go, more cold is.
Yes,
right?
and the thinner, or even
And
if
the
you
thinner.
or
So
just laterally, you go further laterally, the thinner the air is going to get. Remember, globe model, you got to keep thinking in those terms, which they don't want to do that.
Exactly. So here you can see how the lights react, and that is why, I mean, if you go up, you're gonna have less distortion because the air is more cold. You have thin air. You have less, atmosphere layers and blah 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 blah. But they never made observations from those altitude. Everything that we look or that we observe is made on the ground, and we need to pass all these phenomena to look up into the sky. And so it's not enough to make ground observations to trying to determine that kind of stuff. You need to make some really high observation in terms of the elevation from the ground. So I'm not going to, I think the concept here is already understand. I believe that you need to have a lot of, you cannot just simplify in a linear simulation or linear calculation that this is what happened without having all this and more factors into account.
Exactly. So many other variables. But no matter what, if you're a glober, nope, it's curvature. That's what it is. Except for the real curvature point, well, you can't see that. But everything else is curvature. I mean, my God.
Yeah, and the final thing is remember that when you're trying to simulate Fata Morgana into a small scale, it's always show you the same thing, which is that the object needs to be already into a view to look at and has all the distortion. You cannot have an object down here, and because Fata Morgana is going to appear, you need to have, what I'm trying to say is that always it needs to be into your eye view. What I'm trying to say is that you are here with your camera, you have all the atmosphere in the middle, and if something happened to this is a small scale recreation of Fata Morgana, this is a superior mirage, for example, but the object must be into your view. Maybe you are not capable to look at the object because the volumetrics in the atmospherics is not allow you to look at that object in the simple way, because you have, you reach the maximum amount of distance that you can see, and simply as that. But the object is always at the eye level. It cannot be down, height from 300 meters, supposedly obscured by the curvature of the Earth, and the Fata Morgana is going to bring perfectly without any distortion at your horizon.
Excellent. Okay,
so,
beautiful. All right.
And I can show some real quick, Bob, if you don't mind.
Okay, I was going to suggest that. Go ahead and share your screen, and I'll bring it up.
Which I've showed this before, but it's kind of the same thing. So you're looking?
You're there. Yep, it's up.
Yeah, so this is that site that I always go to, the Ray Optics Simulator. And again, what I've done here is just created little individual personal atmospheric domes. And if you kind of remember the picture that Rhetoric drew, the side-on view of which angles things were at, well, it's the same thing with this particular light source here, that as I move it along this line, and you see how everyone in their individual spots would actually see this, you can start to see that it'll never line up. So, for instance, if this is right here, right above this person's, I drew this line here to, that's their view site, but you can see this person's site is not correct, and this person's site is not. So they're drawing these lines and saying, well, is it here? Is it here? Is it here? Is it here? Well, no, it's none of those places. It's actually here. But to each individual person, their measurement is very separate. And so when something goes across the sky, imagine you're here with a equatorial mount looking at this particular thing move across the sky. Well, according to your equatorial mount, you're going to have to rotate on, oops, I didn't want to move that. You're going to have to rotate on some sort of a circular pattern, right? Because this is where you're seeing the light. So that's all that's happening is things are moving above our heads this way. People are here with their equatorial mounts, and they're following it by following the actual render of the item in our sky that we see. So you can see it, and the sun works the same way. So just like when I start getting over here, you'll see that the sun for this person is set, and the sun for this person is now going to set. And then you can see almost the kind of same idea of like this is the light that we still see a little bit of. Maybe it's at dusk, and then you can see that this thing goes away. And when I get here now, this person it's noon for them, and this person it's a little later in the day, so on and so forth. So anyway, just wanted to show that.
Nice. What's so funny is like the world is such a perfect place to deceive people into thinking they live on a ball. It's like so many different elements really are just perfect for tricking people into thinking they're on a ball. But it's crazy, isn't it?
Well, that's why they have to start.
Look at this. This is interesting.
I was just going to say that's why they have to start at indoctrinating at such a young age, so that people can grow up and be astronomy live and believe every bit of what they're being told. When they are so utterly deceived, it's beyond belief.
In fact, they think the best they can regurgitate the deception means that they're actually intelligent.
Right. Yeah, that's what they've taught everybody, and that's why look at the downgrade of humanity as far as how dumb people have become, and it's all a product of the education system, because they've taught people that the level of intelligence is simply to be able to repeat, and that's not intelligence. That's what parrots do. That's what dogs who do tricks do. So it's certainly not a level of intelligence that you can repeat what you're told or be trained to repeat, and that's all these guys are, astrophysicists. Which one of them has been to space? Zero. They're simply given a book, told to read it, and told that they're very smart for being able to answer all the questions. And then once you're able to answer all the questions, then you can go around and tell people how much smarter you are than them, because now you know the answers and they don't. This is the perpetual motion of the entire education system, which again, think of yourself as the elite, think of yourself in power, and you're sitting around a big table and talking to your buddies about how you're going to stay in power and how you're going to get richer. The thing that comes up that says, let's teach all the children to be very smart so they can come up and take us over and make more money than us is never discussed. In fact, it's the opposite. It's going to be, how do we keep people dumb? How do we keep people poor so that we can remain in power and we can remain rich? And the way to do that is to create an education system that purposely leads people to be exactly what you want them to be: debt slaves and order followers.
Yep. And look at us today. Yikes. All right, cool. All right, guys. I guess I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up because a few people are going to be doing premieres. Stellium 7 is going to be doing a premiere in about 15-20 minutes on his channel, and he wanted to make sure that we were finished up by 6 o'clock Eastern. So I'm going to go ahead and close things down, but before we do that, we'll go around one more time just to kind of clear out the cache, so to speak. And let's see, I guess Austin, we'll start with you and let us know what you're going to be doing. And also look, guys, for a video that I will be posting after this that is going to show you how to get to where Austin is going to be broadcasting from, the Globebusters Activism and Globebusters 2 channels. But he will be starting on the Globebusters Activism channel to follow him there. And then if something happens to that, then we'll move to Globebusters 2. So Austin, take it away, sir.
All right, cool. Yeah, you said it. Thank you, Bob, for being generous enough to let us use that. And we'll start with Globebusters Activism, then Globebusters 2. Also, we have masqueradetour.com, which is MASKERAID tour.com. You can contact us there, etc. We also have a QR code that's on there, and that will be getting printed off and putting on the bus. So cool stuff. And then I guess, if DLive decided that they're going to at the least temporarily not cook as much, then I guess I may, of course, continue to stream there, and then Twitch. Witsit Gets It on both of those, and IG, Instagram. Witsit Gets It is the best way to kind of keep up. I can't predict the future as to what they're going to continue to do, but there you go. That's how you keep up with the content. And we will be at the solar return also, so it should be fun. And I think that's about it.
All right, beautiful. Thank you so much, sir, for that. And let's cruise around to Rodrigo. Rodrigo, what do you got coming up this week, sir?
Just keep moving with some of my streams and dealing with just going through information and thinking through with people has been fun. And I was going to say, Twitch. I'm not sure you're on Twitch, Bob, but it would be a good idea because after
I do have a Twitch account, Globebusters/Twitch, or Twitch/Globebusters.
Right,
no, we're not broadcasting on it right now. I can only do 3 streams at a time, and I'm broadcasting on YouTube, DLive, and DLive Journalism. But for some reason, the Globebusters DLive died, so I don't know what happened. I'll have to look into that.
Hey, I forgot one thing, Bob.
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing this thing where we're going to put this sticker on the back of the RV to get the QR code and everything for Dave's app. And so we're already in the process of getting that made. We're thinking maybe, I don't know, a Globebusters one, a Jeranism one, a Masquerade Tour one. So if anyone's interested that does activism and content flat earth-wise, I think it would be cool to have their, logo or even a QR code for their stuff on the RV bus as we go around. So people could scan it in traffic, etc. Then just contact me at Witsit Proton Mail, and we'll get it set up.
Beautiful. Okay. And guys, Scuba Dracula in chat is posting the Globebusters Activism channel link. And also, Johnny, if you'd post the Globebusters 2 link as well. But like I said, we will be starting out on the activism link. So I'm sorry, Rodrigo, back to you, sir. Where were we?
I was going to say, I totally forgot what I was going to say, but continue. I just got a bunch of stuff coming up. I'm going to have a presentation that I called Why I'm Not a Flat Earther. And go through, that would be Friday or something like this. I'm trying to reschedule things ahead of time so I can actually do them. Just a discussion, open discussion on what is it when people say flat earther, how can you, because I think, we talk about the true earth. Jeran mentioned that. I don't want to get into the discussion, but we can do, maybe some people come up Friday if anybody wants to talk or have a discussion about this. It would be nice, but otherwise I'm just going to go solo and explore that kind of theme. But I'm trying to do things thematically now, and I don't know, cover the kind of information that I'm mapping and whatnot, and just following that process. And we'll be on that German podcast, Rabbit Hole, on the 17th. So that should be interesting. Don't know if anybody's been on that before.
What is it? What is it called?
I forget. It's something Rabbit Hole. I don't know exactly, but
and we're not deep inside the rabbit hole, of course.
No. Something else. But based on Germany, and they say that they interviewed Rupert Sheldrake and some other people, but they have a variety of things, Tartarians, and they see Globebusters. So,
I remember Rupert Sheldrake. It rings a bell. I'm trying to remember who he is.
It's the morphic resonance guy. That's the guy who wrote Science Delusion, which is quite interesting.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I love that guy.
Stuff.
Awesome.
He's got really good stuff. Excellent. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, let's move around then to Iru. And Iru, if you want to check your mail, I sent you something. So other than that, what do you guys have coming up, sir? Or what do you have coming up?
First of all, I'm going to store into my hard drive the coffee cup simulation of Jeran, which is great, man. I mean, the last example that you show. And there are those tiny things that I like to have, just in case of something get wrong with the internet. And after that, or beside that, I'm trying to, well, I arrived to Argentina 3 weeks ago, and I'm trying to, make some family stuff, friends stuff, because the last time I was like 5 months in Linda's house, and that is, at least for me, in my short experience of getting out of my house, is it's a lot. So I'm trying to first of all enjoy a little bit of my friends and my family, because I'm going to return on June to Switzerland. So I'm trying to get the most time with my people, and I getting back full on my Spanish channel. I left a little bit of my English channel because all these times situation. So I going trying to get back to my English channel a little bit more. And the rest, I'm also start speaking a little bit about my opinion in terms of trying to make the transition between the the currency, the fiat currency, to something that at least we have a narrow time opportunity to participate of doing something else than just use the banks and the full elite system of monetize our life. I talking about Bitcoin and things like that. So I start to present my point of view to the Spanish community, and keep tracking with flat earth things also. So that is my.
Iru, just wanted to let you know, if you ever wanted somebody to do narration work on your English channel, let me know, and I'd be happy to help you out with that, man.
Oh, that will be nice. My real problem with my English channel is that it's take me a lot of time to translate the same things that I have into Spanish to English. That is the first thing, and the second thing is that I am not a great writer in terms of making scripts to I like the jam sessions in terms of press, transmit, and start trying to express myself the better that I can to the people of the English community understand me. But of course I can I never the problem with my English channel is that I never have a date to say, like Rodrigo, for example, okay, this Friday I'm going to make some show. So maybe I'm here in my house and I have a free time and I press transmit, but feel free for everyone to join the show if you are looking that I am on live.
Hey, have you ever looked into Spanish to English translate on like Google Translate?
Yes, I use that sometimes when I need to, maybe put some text and things like that. But I am not the like I mentioned, the guy that wrote into a paper what I'm going to do.
No, I got you. Yeah. Well, I was just throwing that out there for you, man.
No, but feel free, man, to jump on it. If you look that I am live in my channel, by the way, is NPT for all, because my original channel was deleted by YouTube a few months ago. So I reopened a new one. But for someone that wants to jump in when I live, transmitting live, feel free, please, with the pressure.
Excellent. And I will put that in the show notes as well.
One thing that would be interesting to do, Iru, and some other people who are on Twitch, would be to have a kind of multi-session, have a streamers, like everyone streaming from their channel at the same time.
Yeah.
Or different people, or two or more people. And on Twitch, if you build up an audience there, you can do raids and other things. The subscriptions are kind of embedded in the system. And while it's still there, there's no reason why not to jump on it, I would think.
Yeah.
But
agreed. Sure. Very good. Okay, cool. So let's move along to John the Morgal. Tell us what you got coming up this week, or this coming up whenever. And are you going to be with us on Wednesday night? Do you know?
What time is the thing on Wednesday?
6 Eastern is tentative.
6 Eastern is tentative, so that'd be 5 o'clock here. I should be able to, actually, but it's tentative right now. And it'll probably be tentative right up until Wednesday morning. But I would say there's a very good chance that I will make it. but I will know more by Wednesday morning. And I know, don't you love my advance notices? But yeah,
no problem. I was just
Okay.
trying to get a handle on it, but that's cool. So,
And
what do you got coming up?
by the way, nice to see you here again, John.
Yeah, hey, yeah, we didn't get a chance to say hello, but yeah, man, good to talk with you, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so all right. So, did you have anything else, John? Or
Oh crap! I'm still not done. Yeah, no. I've got some projects that I've been working on, and I just moved, and so the internet at the new place still isn't hooked up. They came to cut the water on. I told you, Bob, and when they turned the water on, it was spraying out water in the basement, so they had to cut the water off. And I went down there to sort of inspect it on my own time, and there's just black mold everywhere. So we might end up having to move again. And long story short, I went ahead and rented a hotel yesterday just so I could take a hot shower because, I haven't had a hot shower since my birthday, which was February 22nd. And
wow.
Oh my God, and it's a nightmare here at the hotel too. So like this morning, then I'll make it real quick. But this morning, the hotel owner, I guess, was going down the line and doing housekeeping or whatever. And I told him, I said, no, I don't need any housekeeping. Well, I got an alert on my debit card saying that he charged my card $100, which, the room was already paid for. And I went and asked him what he did that for. There must be some kind of a mistake. He said that the room smelled like cigarette smoke. And so he just took it upon himself to charge the $100 without our permission. When I asked him to refund it, he said he was not going to do it. So I had to call my bank and ask them, they're going to refund it because it was done through a debit card. But I told the guy, I said, this is theft. That's credit card fraud. You can't do that. And basically he said, well, I'll call the police right now and have you thrown out of here. And I said, well, I've already paid for the room for tonight. And he just, oh my goodness, it's crazy. So, well, I did get a hot shower though. So it was worth
insane.
$100 extra. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I hope things get worked out for you there, buddy.
Oh my God. Can you believe it though? I'm telling you, if it ain't one thing, it's another.
Yeah, no doubt. Okay.
Oh my God.
All right. So that brings us around to believe you, Jeran. What else? What do you got coming up this week, sir?
I just got a few consultations coming up. So, sign up if anybody's interested in getting started in crypto. Go to jeranism.com, click crypto at the top. We've got Raw tomorrow. And then I guess people can wish me luck as we attempt to reinstall Windows on my computer tonight. So hopefully that goes well. And then we should be back with a Thursday live show with Dirth and Stein on Thursday at 12 noon. And if I'm ready to go, it's either going to be this Friday or the next Friday that the Jeranism show will start on Fridays. But for sure, this Friday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, Dave Weiss is having his first ever group flat smacking. And people can bring friends and family, and it's going to be kind of a big hangout on Zoom. And all you have to do to join that is to join his Patreon, which is patreon.com/DITRH. And while you're there, join the coolest club ever. And that's my Patreon, patreon.com/Jeranism.
Awesome. Sounds good. All right, guys. And one last announcement. There will be a Bitches Brew on tonight with, I believe, Cami, Karen B, Jen is there. It'll be on Beth Martin's channel. Possibly Rose 777, I think, is going to be there. I'm not sure I have all of the cast right. But it is coming up in, let's see, in 2 hours at 8:30. So basically 2.5 hours from now on the Beth Martin's channel, and I will try and put that in the show notes, and that's where all the ladies are going to be tonight.
So is Rose 777, is that Crow's 777 old lady?
No, that's actually it's Jason's girlfriend, and Jason's his co-host.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
But yeah, she does all the not translations, but the she puts it down into text. Does
transcript.
All that stuff. Transcript. There we go. Jesus. She does all the transcripts for him and she's like a walking filing cabinet. She's incredible. All the stuff she remembers. So she's really an amazing person. And she'll be on that show tonight.
Agreed. She's
so
awesome.
Now, and they willingly titled it Bitches Brew, huh?
They did indeed. Yes. And it's actually tongue in cheek, but
they said it. I was going to say, they said it. We didn't say it.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, I think that's going to be out. Wow, we got out just in the nick of time. So we will see you guys on Wednesday night. And until then, be good to each other. Don't lie to each other. Open your mind, because there is truth inside. Peace out, everybody.
Bye.
Peace.
Peace.
Peace.